Okay, well, I think we should get started. We said we'd start right on time. Uh, Councilmember Fruman is right up here on time, and we said we would put him up at the top of the agenda. So we'll start with some opening remarks here. Good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday, January 11th, and welcome to the first meeting of Advisory Neighborhood Commission 3D for the 2023 calendar year. I'm Chuck Elkins, Commissioner of Single Member District 1, and at the December meeting of the commission, I was appointed the job of chairing this meeting until such time as a new chair of ANC3D is elected, which will be right after we hear from our featured speaker for the evening, Matt Fruman, who has assumed his new position as DC Council member representing our ward, Ward 3. The first order of business of this evening is for us to review and approve our agenda for the meeting tonight, and I will entertain any proposed amendments to the agenda from my fellow commissioners. Does anyone want to make any changes to the published agenda? Hearing none, I ask you for unanimous consent that the agenda be approved. Hearing
Approved.
no objection, it is approved. So tonight we have the honor to welcome Councilmember Matt Fruman to talk to us this evening. He has many honors in his resume of service to the community prior to his recent election to the council. But one of the most important is that he served in the past as an advisory neighborhood commissioner, which of course gives him special credentials to address us here tonight. And Matt, we invite you to address this assemblage tonight, and we will follow with a short period of questions and answers afterwards, if that's okay.
That's perfect. Thank you very much. And yeah, I spent 6.5 years on an ANC, and it was really a great, challenging and educational experience.
We're done.
I really enjoyed it, and I hope all the new commissioners will enjoy it as much as I did. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what's been going on and then talk about priorities. And there's two kinds of priorities. There's the stuff that's hitting us right now, and then there's longer term. So we're now 10 days in. The big project has been to get an office set up and look like a council's office. And I think we have done just a fabulous job at that. Amy is here. Amy Sinenberg had worked with Mary on Constituent Services. She's joined our office. Stephen Palmer, you may know, also worked on in Mary's office doing legislative work and is our legislative director. Christian Damiano, who you would all be familiar with here, is doing communications, and he is just sensational. Lee Catherine Miles, who had been the executive director for Tenleytown Main Street, is my chief of staff. Vanessa Lopez and Elias Benda, who both worked on my campaign. Elias is a legislative assistant, and Vanessa is the staff assistant and scheduler, which is an important thing for people here who want to try to get something set up and talk. One of the first things was wrangling to get on good committees. I felt super fortunate. I had a little erosion in my good fortune. I'm going to be on transportation and the environment, which Charles Allen is the chair. Just really excited about that. Housing with Robert White as the chair. Also super excited about that. Facilities and family services. One of the things, there's a lot of people here who are interested in schools. Facilities and family services has oversight over DGS. And that was a very high priority for me to be in a position to do that. Executive administration and labor, which is an interesting one and has oversight over the mayor's office for one, and all of the election stuff. Which will be interesting for me. I spent a number of years doing election observation around the world, and so it'll be fun to have oversight on that. I had been on the health committee, and I got moved to the hospital and health equity committee at the very last minute. And I think that I made a mistake because people asked me what I thought of my committee assignments, and I said, I can hardly believe it. I got every single thing that I asked for. And I actually saw Phil Mendelson at a party, and it was very loud, and I pretty much yelled that into his ear. And I had COVID, I got COVID, and he got COVID also, and he absolutely blames me for having gotten COVID. I don't know if it's true, but there is no doubt in his mind. And at the last, I had said I got every single thing that I wanted, and other people were saying they had not gotten everything that they wanted. And so at the last minute, I got moved off of something that I did want, and I had to decide whether to fight it. And I told Phil that I wasn't going to fight it, and I hoped that he would think I was a good sport and not a pushover. And he assured me he thought I was a good sport. One of the big things that I'm doing right now is trying to meet with as many high up people and talk to them about my priorities as possible. And it is like a little like shooting fish in a barrel. There's a little bit of a honeymoon period where everybody wants to talk to me and get to know me. And so it's giving me a chance to convey some of my priorities to people and try to get things built in to the mayor's budget without having to do things legislatively. And I feel quite good about that. It's also, very important to forge relationships with people before you get into your first fight with them. I had Brenda Donald in just the other day, and I told her I voted against the DCHA reform proposal in the second vote. Some of the people here were very active in opposing that in December. And Bill Slover, who is a Palisades resident and has played such an important role, I couldn't support something that I felt had been designed to move him off. But then I also need to work with Brenda Donald going forward. So part of it is, being candid about that with Brenda, and then talking about how are we going to be working together. And I feel good about the prospects of us working together. The very short-term priorities that are a big focus for me, one of them is school budgets. That I come out of a school advocacy background, and there's a lot of concern in Ward 3 schools because in this year's budgets, there's a lot of money that has been identified as one-time money. And so if that money disappeared, that would be very damaging to Ward 3 schools. So I'm trying to convey the importance of that to as many people in positions to make decisions as possible, and to Mendelson, his budget people, the deputy mayor, the city administrator, tomorrow, the mayor's budget person, today, Farabee. It's a lobbying on that issue, and offering suggestions for how we can get more money into DCPS as a way to avert that and to fully fund schools all around the city. That's a absolute front burner priority for me, and driven. Now's the time. So I can't wait a month on that one. Another one that I can't wait a month on is the Chevy Chase small area plan and the Civic Core. That's a train that's moving. The deputy mayor for economic development is holding a surplusing hearing on the library and rec center site, and we need to have clarity from the administration about what all of it means and how it's all going to work. There is a lot of concern in the community that there's some kind of a railroad process that's going to happen that will result in the land being given to a developer for $1, and all we get in terms of affordable housing is what you get from inclusionary zoning. I honestly don't think that's what's going to happen, but I can't let that happen, and I got to get in there and be working with folks and making sure that this happens in a way that works, and that's a thing that's happening right now. So that's a priority. It sort of fits into something broader, which is in the efforts to strengthen our commercial corridors all throughout the ward, but it just so happens that this is a front burner one. A third set of priorities relates to transportation and the environment. Transportation, Amy will tell you, I've been surprised how much of what comes in are people's concerns that relate to DDOT, things they want to see fixed in their neighborhood, things. So we have a growing list of things, and Amy's probably been looking at these for a couple of years, but I need to get my arms around all of the significant requests for improvements or changes that people are asking about from DDOT, and then get with DDOT and work through that list with them. So we've gone out to all of the ANCs asking for lists from them of what are the issues that are front burner to them. And we're trying to get ready for that kind of a meeting. The other big thing that's coming is the budget, and how much of an impact I will be able to have on the budget is, I think some of it I'm trying to do through persuasion today, but one of the things that people do is a letter to the mayor with budget requests. And I have ideas, but there are lots of ideas out there that that I need to know about so that I can make a request to the mayor that captures input from lots of people. And I don't think we've done it yet, but I think if it's not tomorrow, it's the next day, we'll go out again to the ANCs and some other stakeholders, asking them for their highest budget priorities. And I know you guys may talk about budget priorities today, and that'll be a useful discussion for us to take in. So that's, building the plane while taking off kind of thing is what we're doing now. But where are we trying to go over the longer term? Some of that's reflected in the committees that I sought to get on and that I did get on. Transportation and environment, there is a ton to be done in Ward 3 on transportation. Mary Che was an enormous leader on the environment. It'll take a while to fill her shoes, but I want to be out there in the vanguard on the environment as well. Housing, getting more housing and affordable housing built has been a high priority for me for a long time. It's a priority for lots of people on the council and in the administration now. Helping to shape how we're going to achieve that is a high priority for me. It also relates to the planning processes for the commercial corridors, which will be a related high priority for me. And then facilities, DGS, for folks who are in the school communities, it's an endless, it's not working the way that it needs to work. And so we need to figure out how to make it so that DGS is more nimble and more thorough, and things get promptly fixed, and we don't have work orders that are described as having been completed, but they were completed because somebody looked at it and said, well, this isn't something we can do, completed. So those are high priorities for me. Health remains a high priority. I had chaired the board for the Lisner home. I'm very focused on long-term care, the needs in the long-term care community, and strengthening. My wife works at Iona, and strengthening services for seniors. That'll be another big thing. And while I won't be on that committee, I expect to be very active on it. So I think I'll stop there and welcome questions. I hope I didn't go on too long, and hope I gave a sense of where we are and where we hope to go.
No, that's excellent. Thank you, Matt. So let's turn to let's see what kind of questions we might have, and why don't people raise their hand? And I'm going to have Bradley Darren, who's our new administrator, to identify the and I see Derry, you have your hand up. Why don't you go right ahead?
Well, thank you, Matt, very much. I simply wanted to point out to you, I know a couple of us have said this to you before, and I'm very glad about your priorities on transportation, and that ANC3D has a transportation committee that is composed partly of members of the commission and with quite a few members of the neighborhood who participate as well. And we've been doing a lot of work for the last about 2 years on a whole variety of these issues. So when we come to you with some priorities, it will be because we've really studied them for a long time, and we're excited about being able to work with you as you're on the committee. Last year, we did a very detailed list of priorities. This evening, there will be a discussion of some of the high-level priorities that might emerge from this ANC. But I just wanted to point out to you that there is this group, and it has been very thoughtful, and the whole group does look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. I really look forward to working with you. That's why we went out asking for lists of priorities. I don't know what the priorities are in your neighborhood. At some point soon, I will. But the best way to learn about it is from a group like that. So really grateful that that's there.
Okay, next is Anne.
Hi, thank you so much for speaking with us, Matt. I voted for you.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Well, I was very excited with the prospect of your having a role as a as a council member. And I'm really interested by the committees you're sitting on, because the reach there puts you in a great position for the transition to clean energy that we need to focus on. And I'm just looking, transportation and the environment is obvious, but housing, you're going to have oversight of the DGS. I mean, and you'll be in touch with the mayor. So this is great. And health equity. It's all connected, right? In this arena of clean energy. So I'm not asking a question. I'm not talking about a localized neighborhood issue. I'm just saying I'm really, really glad you're taking a role on the council, and hoping to see you move clean energy forward in the district. Thank you.
Thank you 100%. And I think you should be. Also, the housing committee has oversight over the ANCs, just to tell you. Yeah, the thing about the clean energy space is I absolutely want to be really aggressive in the clean energy space. And somebody was joking today that it's not that it's really hard to get co-introducers for legislation. It's that often legislation comes around and people think, damn it, I wanted to do that, and somebody else already did it. Brooke Pinto is doing legislation on subsidies for e-bikes. Well, that had my name on it, and I am very enthusiastic in supporting it. I think there's a lot of energy on the council for this clean energy transition that you're talking about. Charles Allen, as chair of the committee, has done some really great stuff. I've been thinking about how do we best take advantage of the Inflation Reduction Act monies in order to achieve this goal. And Charles is already all on top of it. So I think we're going to work together and do big things. They may not all have my name on it. There'll be my name as a co-sponsor, maybe not as a leader initially, but I think you should look for big things to happen in that space.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
So we'll take one more question from the audience and then turn to the commissioners. Renee.
Thank you. Congratulations, Councilman. I wanted to also bring up one of the other issues that was brought before the voters in November, which was Initiative 82. Initiative 77 before 82 was a bit contentious, and there was that tidbit with council members overturning the will of the people. I do encourage you, council member, to work with other DC agencies, including the Department of Employment Services, to ensure that restaurants and all the other employers comply with that. Ward 3, former council member Che, I believe, took a pretty reasonable approach on the issue. So I would like to get your take on implementing and enforcing Initiative 82.
Yeah, so I mean, 110%, all of us during the campaign, Tricia, also we were asked over and over again to make pledges on this subject, which I happily did. Initiative 82 passed decisively. It's not like it was a close thing, I supported it, and it needs to be implemented and enforced. There is one thing that's out there, which is, I think the initiative called for it to commence in January, and it won't become law for a longer period of time because it has to be go through the congressional review process. And so the date, the effective date is a thing that is up, that's a question, but whether it's going to become effective is not a question. And once effective, that it would be enforced, not a question. The Restaurant Association, it was interesting because it didn't really feel like the Restaurant Association really fought it. I think they knew that it was going to pass, but it will be a hardship for restaurants, and looking for other things that we can do to help strengthen the restaurant industry, because it is a very important industry, not to take away in any way from Initiative 82, but to look for ways that we can also support our restaurants so they can be employers and we can have independent restaurants out there is going to be important too.
Commissioner Duncan.
Thank you. Welcome, Council Member Fruman. I have a very quick question. You had said that the mayor had gone to you and said, hey, give me your top 5 priorities, and she'll try and weave them into her initial budget. Do you have a plan of when you would be getting that to her, so we have a sense of how much time we have to bug you with our priorities?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to have a letter that goes in at the end of January or very early February. It's now, that's the thing, is she's formulating her budget and balancing all different kinds of things. So she publishes their budget at the end of March, but now is the time, and other council members will be doing it right around then as well. So I apologize for the short fuse, but.
No, even if it was at the beginning of February, that would be very helpful to ANC3D. So thank you for that.
And I'm going to meet with her budget director, I think in the next day or two, and ask, like, when, really tell me, when do you need this? And then I'll get back to you and let you know.
Well, this has been very helpful. I don't see any other questions. Thank you, Matt, for being with us. And I hope that you can join us on the discussion later tonight, if you are available, to talk about some of the priorities we see, particularly in the transportation arena, based on our 2 years worth of work in that committee. But now I think it's time to move on to another very important part of the meeting, and that is the official organization of this commission. Starting us up and consisting of the nomination and election of officers. I want to make a few introductory remarks about that before we get to the election. As you know, we had a census in 2020, which showed that our city's population had grown, and therefore we needed to have a redistricting of both the council and the ANCs. And the rules enforced by the city council were fairly strict, namely that each single member district within which a commissioner is elected must have at least 1,900 residents and no more than 2,100. That sounds flexible, but it's not when you have to then do this by using the federal census boundaries, which are somewhat arbitrary to say the least. And it's hard to draw the single member district lines in a way that those of us who would like to just draw them around our established neighborhoods would probably like to do it. And that just didn't happen this time. And that's a long explanation of why many of you probably now find that you live in a different single member district than the one just a few months ago. And you didn't move physically, but the district moved you into a different district. Now, why is it important what district you live in? Well, one is that if you have a comment or concern or question that you'd like to raise, it's sometimes best to raise that to your commissioner as well as the full commission. So how do you find out what district you're in? And there are two ways to do that. Of course, if you voted in the last election, you may remember the name of the person that you had a choice to vote for. But if you don't, if you're not quite sure, here's how you find out. You go onto the website of our commission, ANC3D.org, and under about, the term about, up on the navigation where you can find out about commissioners, you'll find there's a map. And if you live in the middle of a district, you'll be able to see right away where you live. But if you live on the edge, you might be a little uncertain. And in that case, there's an application there that you can click, and you can put in your address, and it will tell you right away who your commissioner is. So I want to make sure that everybody can find out who their commissioner is and be able to talk to them at your convenience. And there on our website, our commissioners have indicated to you the best way to communicate with them. So at this point, I have the privilege of introducing you to the commissioners for this term. I'm going to run through the districts, starting with District 2, and ask each of the commissioners to say just a few sentences about themselves, so you have a good sense of who they are. Starting now with Commissioner Tricia Duncan. She represents District 2, which is generally the district of in Spring Valley that's closest to American University, but it also extends partway down Arizona Avenue. Commissioner Duncan.
Hello, thank you, Commissioner Elkins, for that. I have lived in the neighborhood for 20 years. I was the PTO president over at Key Elementary. I've been the president of the Palisades Community Association. I ran for Ward 3 office. I love our community. I love all of ANC3D, and I am looking forward to representing my constituents on this wonderful commission. Thank you.
And next is Commissioner Quentin Colin Roosevelt, who represents District 3, which can generally be described as the western portion of Spring Valley up against the Maryland border. Commissioner Roosevelt.
Hi, yeah, my name is Quentin Colin Roosevelt. I've lived in Spring Valley my entire life. I'm very excited to serve you all as ANC. Yeah, I've been really active in our community. I love all the green space we have. I love all the restaurants we have. I love the Palisades and Kent as well. The district sort of goes pretty far south. It goes down to MacArthur Boulevard. If you want to reach me, 3D03@dc.anc.gov. Wait, am I doing that right? It's the email.
anc.dc.gov, yes.
3D03@anc.dc.gov. I would love to talk to you about any issues you have, quality of life concerns. Just feel free to reach out. I promise I'll respond.
Great. Okay, Commissioner Jeremy Joseph represents District 4, which I would describe as the western portion of the Palisades, but it has an irregular shape. So you may want to look at the map. Go ahead, Commissioner Joseph.
Well, maybe I do too. So we're made for each other in that respect. Thank you very much, Commissioner. My name's Jeremy Joseph. I'm truly thrilled and privileged to have the opportunity to be a neighborhood commissioner. I've lived in the city since 2004, following my time in the Marine Corps as an intelligence officer. I became, and I've lived in the Palisades since 2008 with my wife and my kids, who are both in DCPS, a 7th grader at Hardy and a 2nd grader at Key. I became involved in DC government when I became the chairperson of the Key LSAT a year and a half ago. And in the first month, I had to help the principal there chop down a large tree that was dying and it was going to fall on the kids, and nothing was happening. And so I delved into city government and got the arborist to do something, and down came the tree, which was sad, but it was going to come down anyways and hurt somebody. And then I worked with DGS and Councilmember Fruman. Working with DGS involved emailing them with and calling them with absolutely no response whatsoever for months and months to fix the leak at the Key School. And only with the help of the council and an oversight hearing with DGS were we able to actually get the roof of the Key School fixed. And so your efforts to help DGS be responsive will be imperative. And so going forward, I'm excited to be part of this great group and represent a terrific part of the city. Thank you.
Next is Commissioner Bernie Horn, who represents District 5, which I guess I would call the middle portion of the Palisades. But once again, the lines are a little irregular. So once again, look at the map. Commissioner Horn.
Thank you. I work as the Senior Director of Policy for the Public Leadership Institute, which is a nonpartisan think tank and leadership center. I'm a graduate of Johns Hopkins University and Georgetown Law. And my wife and I have lived in the Palisades for the past 20 years.
Very good. Okay. Next is Commissioner Marilyn Nowak, who represents District 6, which is the eastern portion of the Palisades.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. I, as my colleagues are, excited to serve this community. I have lived here, it seems to be the common theme, for just over 20 years. I raised two now college-age sons in the neighborhood. They attended Key School and middle school and high school, that both charter school and DCPS. So we are very embedded in the traditions and expectations of great publicly funded schools, and find it critically important that those are accessible to our neighborhood and to children throughout the city. I welcome my new constituents. As Commissioner Elkins mentioned earlier, there was some redistricting as part of the process, and so some of what is now 3D06 had been in a different district previously. So welcome to those of you who are now in my patch. I hope that you find me just as responsive as your prior commissioner, and I look forward to working with you going forward.
And our seventh commissioner is JP Simkowitz. He is on a plane at this time, unable to attend, but he covers Foxhall Village, Foxhall Crescents, and will be with us at the next meeting. In fact, he may be watching tonight. I'm not sure. He said he was going to try to watch on the airplane. And then I'm the last district, District 1. I'm Chuck Elkins. I represent an area that covers Wesley Heights, but now also extends to over to the west to one side of the University Terrace, and includes even a few blocks on MacArthur Boulevard as well. So I can finally say that I have something to some involvement with the Palisades. I'm a graduate of Yale Law School and had the luck of help to creating the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency back in 1970. And then during those 25 years I was there, I was lucky to serve as the senior manager in most of the environmental programs. I founded and now run the EPA Alumni Association. That's what else I do during my spare time. I'm the executive director of that association, and I work with 2,400 members from across the country. And I'm starting my 7th year now as an ANC commissioner, serving for the last couple of years as the co-chair of the Transportation Committee, a representative of ANC3D on the American University Neighborhood Partnership, which borders my district, and working with other commissioners from around the city on citywide issues. And so been here for 37 years and I look forward to continue to work with my constituents. So thank you, fellow commissioners, for introducing yourselves. We come now to the very important opportunity to elect the officers of ANC3D who will lead this commission for the next year. These officers are elected by the commissioners themselves, and they do that by a majority vote of those commissioners present and voting here tonight. Now, DC law has a provision which makes a lot of sense, that the elections for ANC officers should be conducted by someone in the community who is not a commissioner. And so I have therefore asked Derry Allen, a resident of Spring Valley, who has distinguished himself here as the co-chair of our Transportation Committee, to conduct this election for ANC3D officers. So Derry, the floor is yours.
There, I'm off of mute. Thank you, Commissioner, and I'm honored by your request that I run an election. Fairly run elections are on the minds of a lot of people these days. I accept your request. As Commissioner Elkins has explained, we've got several posts that are up for election tonight. There's the chair, there's a vice chair, there's a secretary, and there's a treasurer. What we'll do in each case is I'll ask for a nomination or nominations. Then as would be with any other motion that was before the commission, there'll be a chance if any commissioners want to say anything. I stress so that this is an activity just of the commissioners, so we're not able to call on members of the public as part of this process. It's just the way it's set up. I'm not making that rule. Without further ado, the first office for which there will be a vote is the chair, and I will open the floor amongst commissioners for any nominations.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Tricia Duncan for chair of this commission.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for chair?
Can I second that nomination?
You second it, okay. Is there any other discussion, anything that any members of the commission want to say at this time?
I will say that I am honored and I accept. Thank you.
Okay, you accept the nomination, and maybe shortly you'll be able to accept the election.
The nomination, yeah, I accept the nomination.
Yes. What I'll do is I'll call a roll by your single member district, and if you'd like to vote for Commissioner Duncan, please indicate your intention. 3D01.
Aye.
3D02.
Aye.
3D03.
Aye.
3D04.
Aye.
3D05.
Aye.
3D06.
Aye.
And 3D07. JP, I don't know if you're listening in, but
He cannot vote because
he
he's not
can't. He can't hear us. Okay, so there are 6 commissioners present. I believe that the election is unanimous. Congratulations first to the commission for selecting a leader unanimously on the first ballot. That didn't used to be a big deal, but this week in Washington, it's a very big deal. So congratulations, Commissioner Duncan.
Thank you.
And now Chair Duncan. So let's keep moving right along to Vice Chair. And are there any nominations for the position of vice chair?
I'd
Commissioner
like to nominate Commissioner Bernie Horn for vice chair.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll ask it, is there anything that any of the commissioners want to say at this point? Okay, Jeremy, you,
I'll second that.
okay, thank you. Not hearing any further requests to say anything, I'll call the roll again then to elect Commissioner Horn as vice chair. 3D01,
Aye.
3D02,
Aye.
3D03,
Aye.
3D04,
Aye.
3D05,
Aye.
3D06.
Aye.
Well, I believe that is unanimous as well. And congratulations, Commissioner Horn, your election to high office here. Which brings us to the position of secretary. And I open the floor to any nominations that commissioners would like to present.
I would like to nominate Jeremy Joseph.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there anything that any commissioner would like to say at this point?
There, you may want to ask if there are other nominations as well.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, now I'll call the roll. 3D01,
Aye.
3D02,
Aye.
3D03,
Aye.
3D04,
Aye.
3D05,
Aye.
3D06.
Aye.
I believe that it is unanimous. Congratulations, Commissioner Joseph.
Thank you.
And the final position for election this evening is treasurer. So I will open up the floor for nominations for treasurer.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Nowak as treasurer.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any other nominations for treasurer? Is there any comments that any commissioners want to make at this point? Okay, then I'll call the roll. 3D01,
Aye.
3D02,
Aye.
3D03,
Aye.
3D04,
Aye.
3D05,
Aye.
3D06.
Aye.
Congratulations, Commissioner Nowak. So I believe that Chairperson Duncan, that you have a full slate of officers now to work with you. If we were here in person, I would hand you a gavel, but we'll just hand you the imaginary gavel. And
Oh, it's right here. It's right here. Can you see
oh,
it?
you have it right there. Okay.
I'm
And
happy to
I,
hand this figuratively to the new chair.
Okay.
Chair
So,
Duncan.
Commissioner Duncan, I believe the meeting is yours at this point. Thank you very much to all the commissioners, and I wish you good luck. And I look forward to working with you myself on a variety of issues as you go forward. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen, for running that important election for us. And I know I speak for all the commissioners. Thank you, Commissioner Elkins, for all of your help in helping us prepare for this meeting. It's been invaluable. We are going to jump right into this agenda. For those who know me, I like to run a meeting pretty quickly. We are now at the part of the agenda for DC updates and citizens Q&A, starting with Metropolitan Police. And I do believe I saw Officer Anthony McElwee in attendance. Bradley, there you are. Hello, Officer McElwee. Great to see you again.
Hi, good evening, Commissioner, and congratulations for becoming the chair.
Thank you.
For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Officer Anthony McElwee. I'm assigned to the 2nd District. Your traffic officer. I patrol your neighborhoods. I've been in your neighborhoods now patrolling for about 20 years as a traffic officer. And I also attend all your community meetings. I've been doing that for about 15 years. And with that said, I'd just like to wish everybody a happy new year. And I would like to welcome back our current commissioners and a special welcome shout out to our newest ANC elected commissioners. We here at the 2nd District are looking forward to working with you. For those of you who don't know, we represent PSA 205, and PSA stands for Patrol Service Area. And your neighborhood is within the PSA 205 Patrol Service Area. I'm going to start off with some good news. We had a 100% reduction of violent crimes in 2022 versus 2021. And we also had a 3% reduction of property crime during the same time. And I'd like to just add that on to 2021, PSA 205 received the award for the highest reduction of crime throughout all the other cities' PSAs, which I would like to thank the residents because we couldn't have done it without you. Moving on, I'm going to just, for the sake of saving time, I'm going to go through this quickly. We had 1 burglary, 8 thefts from autos, and 9 thefts. First burglary occurred on December 3rd between 7 p.m. and 8:15 p.m., 5200 block of Upton Terrace. Homeowners heard some noises in their backyard, left the area for a while, came back and discovered a broken window and observed that someone rummaged through and took some unknown items from inside the house. They rummaged through some bedroom drawers. December 29th, between 12 and 12:10 p.m., 4400 block of Edmund Street, unknown subject broke into a work truck and stole some construction equipment. On December 23rd, between 2:30 and 5:30 a.m., from the 5300 block of Sherrier Place, the owner of the vehicle left the car unlocked and a laptop was taken. December 23rd, between 11:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Nebraska Avenue, the construction tools were taken from an unlocked vehicle. December 23rd, again, between 7 a.m. and 2 p.m., 4700 block of Upton Street, a wallet was stolen from an unlocked vehicle. December 16th, 12:15, vehicle owner observed a black male described as 20 to 30 years of age, 5'7", 170 pounds, wearing a black jacket, black pants, and a black shirt, opened an unlocked door of his work truck and removed his wallet, which was left on the front seat. The suspect fled the area in a gray car down eastbound on Cathedral Avenue. I do want to touch on something. We had a rash of airbag thefts on Wednesday night into Thursday early morning hours of January 5th. We had 7 theft from autos that included airbags from the Foxhall Village area, 1500 block of 44th Street, 4400 block of Volta Place, and 4500 block of Indian Rock Terrace. The suspects took the airbags from the Hondas and the Acuras. They smashed out some of the windows to get to these airbags, and they're selling them on the market. The only way I can think of protecting your airbags is back in the old days they had a club. I know some of the old timers like me that had a club that you locked on your steering wheel. If you can maybe Google it, find the club, and put it on your steering wheel and lock it, they can't access the airbag. Lieutenant Pongrass, who is your lieutenant and PSA team leader, has stepped up patrols in that particular area in conjunction with our crime suppression team. So you will see extra patrols, especially focused in on that area. Finally, PSA 205 will be holding our community meeting on February 15th at 6 p.m. inside the Palisades Library located at 4901 V Street. Please come out and meet your community police officers. I'll be there. Lieutenant Pongrass will be there, and the officers that regularly patrol your neighborhood will be there for a meet and greet. And we will also discuss and troubleshoot some crimes that are occurring within your neighborhoods at an informal roundtable session. Before I go quickly into the traffic stats, I'd like to take this time to introduce, we have a new captain at the 2nd District, Captain Tatiana Savoy. I saw her out there somewhere. I'd like to just introduce her. She's assigned to the 2nd District, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Thanks, McGowie. Hi, everyone. I'm Tatiana Savoy. I've been recently transferred from the 1st District about 3 weeks ago here to the 2nd District. Just a brief about myself. I have over 20 years on this agency. I have served in Ward 8, Ward 4, as well as Ward 6 over in Capitol Hill. So I think, Miguel, we touched up on everything. Thank you. And I look forward to working with everyone this year, and I'll leave all of my information in the chat.
Oh, well, welcome, Captain. Congratulations. We obviously are partial to the 2nd District, so I'm sure we'll be meeting and talking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. Real quick, as far as traffic goes, we had 17 minor traffic accidents over the last 30 days. Some of the targeted areas that we hit last month was 4,500 and 5,000 block of MacArthur Boulevard, Foxhall Road, Ward Circle, New Mexico Avenue, Canal Road, Larborough Road, and Arizona. I also spoke to Commissioner via email, Jeremy Joseph, and we are looking into, and we're adding extra patrols to Arizona and MacArthur Boulevard. And I will keep you updated on those stats out there and how it unfolds on our enforcement. Just so you know, last year, total traffic tickets on MacArthur Boulevard for the entire year of 2022 were 675. That was the highest out of all the other areas of the roads that I went over. And if you were wondering and curious, the 2nd District, 2nd District for the whole year of 22, we issued 12,189 tickets. With that said, and I know you're pushed for time, I am going to put my email address in the box. If you have a question, please email me. I promise I'll respond back. Also, vacation checks. We do conduct vacation checks of your home while you're away on vacation. You can also email me. Just make sure you give me emergency contact information and any other details of visitors around your property while you're gone, and we'll be happy to check on your home while you're away. With that said, I'm open for questions, concerns, or complaints.
I have a question while we're waiting for the neighbors. When you mentioned the airbags, what were those specific make and models that they were looking at them?
Yes, they were Hondas and Acuras. There were 7 of them, and some of them I believe most of them they broke the windows, and it doesn't take too long to remove these airbags, especially if you know what you're doing.
We might be able to put out to the neighborhood that if you have a car like this, it could be hit, and maybe those individuals can get a club for their steering wheel. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Duncan.
Officer, I'll jump in next. Thank you for your service watching out for the neighborhood. One area I know that you and your colleagues have watched on our behalf before is the crosswalk in front of the old Safeway. I recently crossed the street there. It's always a bit of game of Frogger. And I have long told my children, you must act as though the cars will not stop. So if you have some spare time on your hands and you're looking to issue a whole bunch of tickets, please park yourself right next to the CVS, and I'm sure that intersection will keep you busy.
We will absolutely do that, Commissioner Nowak, and I personally wrote 12 out there last year. We had a detail where an officer dresses up in plain clothes, and 2 or 3 of our traffic officers, my colleagues, we set up a cone out there, and we monitor for compliance. And yeah, I agree with you. It can be a tough journey trying to get across that street, but we will give that extra attention out there, and it is on our radar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Colon Roosevelt.
Hi, thank you for your service, Mr. McCauley, and welcome Captain Savoy to Ward 3. We're happy to have you here. I assume this might be what Commissioner Joseph reached out to you about, but just in case, on Arizona on NBC, there was a speed camera that was defaced and painted over. Is that something that you would handle, the vandalism of public property, or is that a DDOT issue? And if it is something that you would handle, what options do you have to reduce some vandalism of public property like that?
You're talking about our speed camera was
Yeah,
analyzed
on Arizona.
Yeah, our automated traffic branch runs those cameras out there. We would take a report, and certainly it'll be investigated. I didn't know it was damaged. It's still out there and working, I believe. I will look into that.
It seems like someone else rubbed the paint off, so it was a bit of a back and forth, but someone did originally paint over the camera.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. And welcome on board there, Commissioner Roosevelt. And thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who have questions for Officer McElwee? Seeing none, I want to thank you for coming. I look forward to seeing you every month, and thank you for your service and looking out for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, and Happy New Year, everyone. We'll see you next month.
Okay, moving on. Is there someone from the mayor's office on here? I thought I saw Mr. Guru Robintab. Hello. I thought I got a message that we had a new mayor's liaison, but obviously that's not true.
Yeah, so this is what I'm here for. So Happy New Year's, everyone. Good evening.
Happy New Year.
Amir Gurabintab. I'm with the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services. I'm seeing a lot of new faces here, so I should probably explain what we do, since we do work closely with the commission a lot. And so that stands for, I've already explained it, but we call ourselves the eyes and ears of the mayor. So any concerns that broadly deal with any government agencies or anything the government can be involved in, we do hear those, and we have 2 per ward. And we do site visits, community walkthroughs, all of that. So, if there's ever a time that someone needs to do a walkthrough of an area and check out some infrastructure concerns, that's a thing we do. But as Commissioner Duncan mentioned, yes, there was a bit of a shakeout during the holidays, just as there was for this commission. And so I'm transitioning out of my role in the Ward 3 Moker's office, and my replacement, Matthew Barclay, is here today as well. So I'm going to let him introduce himself momentarily. I do want to say that for anyone who has my work number, which is, I'll put in the chat, the 202-340-7853, that is also now belonging to Matthew Barclay. So any calls will go to him, and I'm sure you guys are going to work great together. Best of luck to the new commissioners and to my partner, Matthew, as well.
Thank you, Mr. Gurabintab. I remember your first day on the job was around the pandemic. I thought you really got into the job quickly, and we appreciate your service.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Barclay.
Hi, how are y'all? I'm Matthew Barclay. I'll be replacing Amir. I have his number, as you said. I'll put it in the chat, and my email is matthew.barclay@dc.gov. I'll also put that in the chat. I look forward to living up to Amir's service, and anything that you could do. I would love to reach out to you this week and have a conversation with you guys about your communities and what you are in need of.
Great. I think I reached out to you already, and would like to do a drive around ANC3D, and I'd like to invite any of the other commissioners who want to hop in on something like that. We have nothing planned, but I would like to show you all of our, top priorities here in the ward. What's going on?
But right back in. I also wanted to mention, I would always mention any events that are coming up. So.
Oh, Amir, you got muted there.
Okay, so I wanted to mention that we have a parade coming up this Monday, the Martin Luther King Jr. Day Parade. Before we forget about that, that's happening in Martin Luther King Avenue, actually, in Southeast. And I think one of us can get a link in the chat, but I just made sure we didn't forget that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Barclay? All right, well, thank you. I'm certain that in the future you'll get bombarded with a lot more questions. So thank you for coming. Up next, we did hear from Councilmember Fruman, but if there is someone from Matt Fruman's office who would like to come and introduce themselves, perhaps Amy would like to come in. There you are. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. So hello, everyone. My name is Amy Sinnenberg. You might recognize me because I sat in all of the 3D meetings last year. And if you don't, I used to work for Councilmember Che, and now I'm working on Team Fruman. I'm your Constituent Services Director for the ward for the council. So please feel free. I will obviously put my email in the chat, but feel free to reach out to me. Any concerns you have. My role in the council is similar to Amir and Matthew's, or Amir's former role and Matthew's current role for the mayor. And you got the best treatment tonight by having the council member here himself, and Commissioner Elkins, I'm sure you were happy to actually hear some of the legislative goals. But I'm here to help. Many of you have already reached out to me. And I also did reach out to all the commissioners asking them for DDOT related things, as Councilmember Fruman did say. But as many commissioners have already done, I'm of course not limited to the scope of DDOT, and I welcome everybody's questions, comments, concerns as you often give them.
Thank you. And I know people are going to be interested in your contact information. So we would appreciate you dropping that in the chat. And thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
I'd like to now go on to our community institutions. I believe I saw someone here from American University, Maria Berry. Is she on? There you are. Hello.
Hey, good evening, everyone. It's great to see you. Happy New Year and congratulations to all the new commissioners. It's very nice to see the new commission. My name is Maria Berry. I am the Director of Community Relations at American University. And we are excited that we, as always, work with 2 ANC commissions. We continue to work with 3D through the redistricting process. Our campuses, both our campuses, the law school and our main campus, are actually now in 3E. But again, our priority is always working with all the surrounding neighborhoods, and we will continue to work and champion issues with both ANCs. My institutional update tonight really has to do, I just sent out my community newsletter. It usually goes out around the first week of the month, but because of the holiday, we delayed it a little bit. I will put in the chat how you can sign up for our email list so you'll receive our updates, because we often have information that might be of interest to you. So I'll put that in the chat after I speak about our next update, which is as per our approved campus 2021 campus plan. American University is in the stages of our proposed first 2 projects on our campus, and that will be in sites 3 and 5. Again, I will put more links in the website, but it'll be our Meltzer Center, our Alan and Amy Meltzer Center for Athletics, and the the SCAN facilities, which are going to provide training and support areas for all AU athletes, as well as varsity club and intramural competition venues. The location of the Meltzer Center / SCAN corresponds with sites 3 and 5, as I mentioned, of our campus plan, which are on the northwest end of the campus. You may some of you may know where our tennis courts are. That's probably the easiest location to imagine where this area of our campus is being reimagined. We are involved in an extensive community outreach effort, which has already begun. And as part of that, we are inviting everyone to an information forum about this project, where we'll go into more detail and show some renderings of these spaces, which is going to be on January 26th. I will also put that in the chat, which is and there's an RSVP link to come to that. That's an in-person meeting that's going to be on our East Campus. We also continue to work with our AU Neighborhood Partnership, our Community Liaison Committee, which is also called the CLC. We're working with both ANCs, and AU will take additional steps. And we've already started to engage the University Avenue area residents. Those are the neighbors that are most proximal to the site. We will continue to update our campus plan website. You can actually go on tonight or anytime after this call, and you can, we did put up information just today about the project, relevant information, and there's also a comment portal that you can ask any questions about the project along the way. We will be developing an FAQ, a question and answer sheet based on those questions, and we will be publishing those answers on a weekly basis so that you can read progress about that. So that public feedback we are seeking. We will not only have the meeting on the 26th, we will also be planning a meeting on the in February, in late February. We also have our community liaison committee coming up on February 7th. So we're really looking forward with this engagement. It's exciting plans for AU, and we really welcome participation from neighbors and the neighboring communities. So I will put my contact in the chat. I'm also available to meet one-on-one and meet with our AVP, Jonathan McCann of project and planning. And we're happy if you can't attend the information forum for us to be able to showcase the plans and walk you through that process. So lots of information that's going on, and stay tuned for more, and please, our website will have the most up-to-date information along with that comment portal. So.
Thank you so much for that. I know there's going to be some people who are very interested in looking at the plan. Any chance you could put the link to the place on the website?
Yes, I will drop in the chat both the RSVP link to the information forum, as well as the page, the campus plan page that just got launched today. And so you can see that. And on the website is where you can sign up to be on the email list, because that's also your emails are very important to us for us to be able to push information out if we do have meetings or other events, particularly surrounding the campus plan efforts.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Berry at this time? All right, thank you so much. That was very informative, and I'm glad you have this website launched. That's very exciting. I would like to go back to the agenda. I did not believe someone was here from DDOT, but they are here. I would like to call on Christian, I'm going to botch your last name, Pinheiro.
Actually, that was really good.
Oh, great. Thank you. Welcome.
No worries.
From DDOT, everybody.
Yes. Hi, Chair Duncan. Congratulations, ma'am, on your position, and great to see 3D again. Also, a lot of great new faces. For those who don't know me, I'm Christian Pinheiro. I am the Ward 3 liaison for DDOT. I've been serving this capacity for about a year and a half now. So I've worked very closely with Commissioner Elkins and Commissioner Joseph on a variety of issues across the SMD. But happy, of course, to be your go-to contact for any related DDOT matters. I do want to put a plug for our newest program that we've launched on January 6th, which is our new traffic safety input 2.0 process that we've launched. It's a more data-driven process that kind of prioritizes our traffic safety across the city in a more equitable and efficient manner. So I know that's probably getting a lot of questions from residents about that particular program. So I'm more than happy to address those in particular, or come back at a later time for another meeting to do a bigger presentation. But I just wanted to make sure that, I made sure that that's a new program that we're launching. And for any questions and inquiries, I'll also go ahead and put my contact information in the chat as well. But thanks again for having me, and looking forward to working with you all in an official capacity.
Thank you so much. I apologize for skipping you too. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now we are going to move on to our next university institution, George Washington University. I believe Kevin Days is on the Zoom.
I am. Good evening. Welcome. Happy New Year to everyone. Congratulations to all the new commissioners. Congratulations on your offices. My name is Kevin Days. I'm the Community Director of Community Relations for the George Washington University. And we have a campus in your ANC jurisdiction. It's the Mount Vernon campus. And my job as the Community Director of Community Relations is to make sure that folks understand that this campus is a resource for you in the neighborhood. So I attend these meetings every month and give you updates, and I have a few updates to run through. I'll try to keep this pretty brief, but the most important announcement that I can make today is that today the GW Board of Trustees announced the selection of the 19th president of the George Washington University. Ellen Grantberg, who is currently the provost at the Rochester Institute of Technology, will be assuming the role of president of the George Washington University beginning on July 1st, 2023. So we are very excited to welcome President-elect Grantberg. We're looking forward to introducing her to the commission and to the neighborhood. And we are super excited to embark on our third century with this new selection. In addition to that, just a couple of quick updates. We have a quarterly community meeting where we give updates that are focused just on what's happening at the Mount Vernon campus. That meeting is scheduled for tomorrow at 7 p.m. It's going to be a virtual meeting, and I'm going to drop a bunch of information into the chat like everyone else has, so that you could sign up for that meeting. Some of you may have known that the university has reinstated many of its community benefits, allowing community members to gain access to using the library at Eccles, riding the shuttle between the Mount Vernon campus and Foggy Bottom campus. And I'm going to put the instructions for how you access those community benefits in the chat also. Classes will start next Tuesday after the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, and students will be moving on campus beginning on Saturday. So you'll see a lot of activity around the campus. That's it for my announcements. As I said, very much forward to working with many of you. Looking forward to continue relationships with those I've worked with, and looking forward to establishing new ones with the new commissioners. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. Otherwise, I'll return time to your agenda.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Days? Well, thank you for coming. I look forward to working with you this year. Thank you.
Will do.
Is there anyone here from Wesley Seminary? Okay, I do not believe, and also, is there anyone here from Georgetown? I do not believe there is, but I wanted to let people speak up or raise their hand if they're here from Georgetown University. All right, seeing none, we are finished with our higher education. Is there anyone here from any of our neighborhood hospitals? Sibley, Georgetown Hospital, anyone from community, PCA, FCCA, Spring Valley, any of the schools? Seeing none, we are moving on for commissioner updates. I'm going to do this calling the roll. If you have nothing, you do not have to say anything, but if there's something interesting going on that you think the neighborhood should know about, now's the time to say it. And so I am going to call on area 01, Commissioner Elkins.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We do have a Transportation Committee meeting on the 19th at 4 p.m. and the information about how to join is on the website. And we do very much welcome neighbors to come and join the committee and talking about transportation issues in the community. So it's all virtual at this point, and so you're welcome to come. 19th at 4 o'clock.
Thank you very much. myself being a commissioner from 02, I am going to go. I would like to announce something that's actually happening around the corner from me and Commissioner Joseph. The mayor is coming to an event at the Hub on January 29th. It's called Backstage at the Hub with Mayor Muriel Bowser and Shaletta Settles, excuse me. She's an R&B singer, and the mayor is going to be giving a talk and doing a Q&A about the arts in the city and her, how the arts influenced her growing up, but it's not often the mayor comes here. So that's the Palisades Hub. It's on their website. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. And that's all I have. So moving on to 03, Commissioner Cologne Roosevelt.
Yeah, so I've been ANC for all of 9 days now. I don't have a ton of updates, but I'm very excited to serve all of you. One thing that we do have going on is on the 14th, there is an open house for MacArthur High School. So I know a lot of families in the neighborhood. If you would like to learn more about the high school and what your options are when it opens in August, I'll put the link to the website in the chat, and you can go and register for that open house there. And they've selected a principal, and he's making the rounds a lot of meetings. You can probably have an opportunity to talk to him at some point too, which is awesome. I'm very excited for all of us.
That is an excellent announcement that you had. And we believe that the principal of the high school is going to be at our next ANC meeting. That was just figured out today. So that's an announcement. We'll have that on our website. Thank you, Commissioner Cologne Roosevelt. Moving on to 04, Commissioner Joseph.
I regret to say that Commissioner Cologne Roosevelt stole my one fun nugget, and I couldn't be happier because it's great. And I agree with what he said. And thanks very much.
Okay, and moving on to 05, Commissioner Horn.
I've got nothing for you today.
Excellent. And Commissioner Nowak.
Well, I'm going to stick with the theme of the MacArthur High School as they follow up to an inquiry from one of my constituents. We have gotten word from the facilities team that I believe starting over the summer, we will get updates about progress at the high school every 2 to 3 weeks. They have a process where they do similar to what we have seen in the neighborhood with the Balfour facility. So once those are published, I will make sure that they get put out onto both the listservs in Foxhall and Palisades, as well as our ANC website. So watch out for those if you have interest in the progress of the build out of the MacArthur campus.
Thank you. I think there's going to be a lot of people interested in that. So thank you very much. This is the portion of the ANC meeting where we take community comments. I would like to let members of the community know that if you are attending the meeting to comment on something that's already on the agenda, there will be a chance for you to speak then. This is for new things that the community would like to bring to the commission. And we ask neighbors to limit their time to 2 minutes. I see a hand raised for Miss Renee T.
It's actually Mr. But that's
Mr.
okay.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. You've already spoken. Sorry.
That's all right.
Apologies.
I live in I guess it's 3D06 at the foot of the reservoir. So one thing that isn't on the agenda, I know we were giving updates with council members liaison as well as the mayor's office of community affairs, but now that budget hearings will be coming up, our housing cooperative, we are one of the few housing cooperatives in Ward 3. We've had significant concerns with the Office of Tax and Revenue and Office of Chief Financial Officer, OCFO. Primarily since that agency has moved to their online mytax.dc.gov. All of us pay some sort of tax, whether that's income tax, property taxes, or if you're a special business like ourselves, other taxes. But the migration we believe is taking was rolled out very fast without much input from the community. So we're encouraged, our housing co-op would like to encourage the ANC to look into the matter There was also some new legislative provisions in the appropriations bill, the federal appropriations bill. That was a policy writer, Secure 2.0 Act. And that impacts quite a bit of what states are to do. So we also would like to encourage the ANC to push the OCFO to look into changes with DC's 529 plans. There's a provision with lost savings bonds. So DC residents, primarily Ward 3, could have lost savings bonds. There's also retirement savings that are lost and found, given that I believe when I last looked at the numbers, we have a fairly high population of elderly DC residents. So we would like ANC to look into those provisions. And then I think the only thing that I would add, I think there was some provision in that funding bill as well too, with charitable conservation easements. We understand that Colony Hill is the newest historic neighborhood in DC, but I don't know the impact that would have to the rest of the historic properties within our ward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And you said that you live in SMD 05?
06, I believe.
I think it's 06. Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's right. I think that's right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I see Mr. Brett Young has his hand raised.
Good evening, everybody. Quick question though. I wanted to discuss putting into the budget the trolley trail, and I don't know if that went under this section or because it's not on the actual agenda. So I didn't know if I should wait till then or.
So I think we're going to wait for the agenda item that is it's coming up next, oversight and budget hearings for priorities. So thank you.
I'll wait till then. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other neighbors who would like to speak? Seeing none, we are moving on and catching up on our time, which is fantastic. The next item on the agenda is development of ANC3D's oversight and budget hearings priorities for district agencies for fiscal year 2024. And I'm going to hand this over to Commissioner Elkins to explain.
Thank you. So last year, this commission sent a letter to the Department of Transportation suggesting a whole variety of priorities for this current fiscal year. And we vetted that with the community before we sent it. That was our March letter. This year in the Transportation Committee, we came up with the idea that maybe we would move the process up one step, and that is try to be more effective in the oversight and budget hearings so that maybe some of these decisions can be made by the council to assist the Department of Transportation. And then when we discussed this matter among other commissioners, we decided, well, we broaden this beyond transportation. So the piece of paper that is on the website, in which I want to ask our administrator to bring up on the screen, actually deals only with transportation, but I think this dialogue should be broader than that. It happens that, of course, because we have a transportation committee, we've done a lot of staff work over the last 2 years and have a number of priorities that we've developed over the time. And I do want to apologize to the Transportation Committee that this document wasn't fully vetted with them. But there's time. Well, let me say, process-wise, what I'm suggesting, Madam Chair, is that we start the discussion tonight, but then open up the discussion to the community through the listservs, and then come to a vote next on February 1. And the reason for a vote on these priorities, not just transportation, but others, is to provide the ability for commissioners and also members of the public to be able to go to these hearings and say, you know, in 3D, we have these concerns, and be speaking for more than just themselves, but speaking more for the community. I think that is more effective. So that's the purpose for a vote. So I'm going to run through these very quickly just to make sure people know what's on this piece of paper. It's also on the website. But then if we could open it up for discussions, for suggestions for additions or subtractions, or, you know, are we sort of hitting the right tone? about this. You'll notice that the emphasis is on broader topics as opposed to individual intersections and this sort of thing. So the first one deals with bicycle lanes, as you see, and of course we want them to build out the 2 bicycle lanes we've been working on for the last year, but also link them up with Rockwood Parkway and Loughborough Road, so that particularly the Arizona one works as part of a network. And then one of the priorities that has not gone forward in the past has been the widening of the sidewalk on Massachusetts Avenue downtown to get people downtown from Westmoreland Circle. And that would be a valuable addition. And the main point here on bicycle lanes, I think that some of us have concluded that although bicycle lanes do get a lot of verbal enthusiasm and support, that when you're working with the department, you find that they really could use some more staff and some more money to get these things done more quickly. So that's to raise the issue of whether our budget really matches our rhetoric. Then, whoops, don't go any further, not further. I'm on the bus service next. There, okay. We're going to talk about this in a minute, so I'm going to skip over this because this relates to something that the chair wants to bring up with regard to bus service, but certainly we're talking particularly about the Palisades. And then safety for pedestrians has been an emphasis for this commission for several years. The change that's come about, which I think we should take advantage of, is that the department has begun to focus in on a strategy of what to do about the 700 blocks or segments in the district that I believe I got my number right, that don't have a sidewalk on either side of the street. And some of these, not all of them, there's some in our neighborhood that don't meet this criteria, but many of these do help, would, if built, help pedestrians reach schools, recreation areas, transportation, and places of work. And these should be built as soon as possible. And the department has, I believe, is in the process of developing a strategy for categorizing these, prioritizing these, and I think if they can make that strategy public, then I think we can ask the question of the council, well, do we want to build these segments in the next 100 years, or the next 50 years, or 20 years, or 10 years? Not to be too cynical, I think we're on the 100-year schedule right now, so some improvement can be made. And of course, we mentioned here the crosswalks. And it's been the view of this commission in the past. I hope those of you who look at this, the new commissioners, and see whether you think we're correct. The sidewalk budget is very small and is essentially a second cousin in the department. And that doesn't seem consistent with even the item that came out of the 3 federal departments today. You read about that in the Washington Post, that there's a strategy to deal with climate change, and that involves walkability as well as other and bikeability. So we need to increase that sidewalk budget. All of us are familiar with Canal Road. It brings residents from DC, but also particularly Virginia and Maryland, into the district and gets them downtown. And if they stay on Canal Road, they stay out of MacArthur Boulevard and all of our neighborhood streets. The objective of the Department of Transportation is to move commuters out of their cars onto buses and other means of transportation. And I think we would all have to agree that's going to be a little tough, particularly for Virginia people coming over that chain bridge. And it would be helpful, even as we pursue our climate change efforts, to put in the Canal Road improvements that the department has already studied, but has not done the engineering work to figure out how much it would cost so they could actually be considered in the budget. And so then moving to number 5, we only 7 of these, so don't worry, almost done. Climate change. One of the biggest things that seems to make sense, and certainly inconsistent with what the 3 departments said today about climate change strategy, is we need to electrify our transportation system. And that requires, particularly for private automobiles, charging facilities, and some of us are of the view that the department is not thinking, and the council are not thinking as broadly as they might. And there's a new piece of legislation in front of the council that we can study and perhaps support, which would have would finance a lot more charging stations. And now that the federal agencies have gotten together and had a strategy, I think it's time for the DDOT strategy perhaps to be updated, so we have a clear idea of how this department is going to electrify and decarbonize the transportation systems in this city. There's need for more work on engagement between the department and the council and ANCs. Some of us are not as enthusiastic about the new Transportation Safety Investigation Program that Mr. Pinero speaks favorably of. It is an improvement, but there's still some more improvement that could be made, and he knows what those are because we've this commission has sent our comments into them about how they can improve it. And finally, we have a special committee working out of the Transportation Committee that needs some help. We have a high school going into MacArthur Boulevard, and as far as we can tell, I'm going to overstate this a little bit, but as far as we can tell, the only way you get there is drive the students. Yes, you might be able to ride the bus through the Palisades, but you're going to have to wait a long time for that bus. So this is a serious problem. So that is an example, drawing from the 2 years worth of work from the Transportation Committee of what, at least in draft, I believe, can be perfected, but the draft are some of the high priorities that could be put forward by this commission and then argued in front of the oversight hearings and the budget hearings. And as I said, it only covers transportation. So I think, Madam Chairman, when we move into this discussion, I think we should entertain not just transportation priorities, but others as well, because as Councilmember Fruman said, he's looking at the whole budget and not just transportation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. I know this was a lot of work. I know I have my list in front of me, but I would like to open up the discussion to the commissioners right now. If you have any personal views on things on this list or things you think we should add to the list. Commissioner Joseph.
Thank you, Chairwoman Duncan. And Commissioner Elkins, this is a very good list. If I may, and we haven't had much of a chance to discuss these issues generally as a commission, but one issue that stood out to me that I know you've been working on for a while is the Capitol Crescent Trail connector, and I know that's in the works, but it hasn't been built yet, and so I was curious if that was left off intentionally or might be considered. I endorse your other points emphatically, and I'll make a point about the bus headways in a moment. Your understanding about the lack of transportation options to the new MacArthur High School is exactly right. There's no plans in the works to support that, and that's going to be a crisis here momentarily. The one thing I wanted to add potentially is your consideration of the trolley trail. I know there's a few other folks that maybe speak to this as well, but this is a key priority, I think, for me to improve this so that it is useful for people, and whatever shape that takes, I think there's some options there. So that's one option, and that obviously requires some funding. And then just in terms of oversight related to transportation and sidewalks, I note that, up around Key School, there's a bunch of new houses, but they're not even building sidewalks in front of the new houses. And so it strikes me as an oversight issue. DDOT or whoever is responsible for that isn't even taking those opportunities to put the sidewalks in when they're ripe for the picking. So thank you for your efforts. And those would be my additional thoughts and comments.
Madam Chairman, I could just respond in terms of procedure here. I think these are excellent suggestions which can be added to the list. And so when the list goes out onto the listservs and we ask the community to join with us in this consideration, you know, we can add the Capitol Crescent Trail connector, which is really vital, and the trolley trail. So we can do that. And I think, because I think what I'd like to see is to generate some discussion from the community so we can be guided somewhat by the priorities as the community as a whole sees.
I see this commission being very good in seeking community input through surveys. We have some of the most robust listservs in the city. So I'm confident that we can get this right and see what everyone's priorities are. Does anyone else have things they want to add or things they think might not be a priority on this? I'm going to call on some members of the public. Oh, Commissioner Roosevelt, go ahead.
Commissioner Elkins, this is an ordered list. Just wondering, are these, you know, is our top priority at number 1, our lowest priority number 7?
No, thank you.
Okay.
This is not an ordered list.
Okay. And I think in general, it's a great list, a lot of amazing ideas. I would like to emphasize the same thing that Commissioner Joseph just emphasized, which is we have a lot of streets without sidewalks on them, and especially around the key school area. And it's really unsafe for the kids who are trying to, you know, play there and go to school there. And I would love to see DDOT prioritize putting sidewalks on these streets because otherwise they're very dangerous for residents.
I am going to call on Renee again. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm curious, Commissioner Elkins, are you proposing that the ANC only focus on the oversight and budget hearing for DDOT? Because there are other federal DC agencies, excuse me, that I'm curious what the rest of the commissioners feel about, including DCRA's newly splintered Department of Buildings and the Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection, if there will be an ANC3D position on other DC agencies.
Yes, in the past, ANC3D, I in particular have testified in front of those oversight hearings for several years now. Certainly do support your view that those agencies need some help in setting priorities and meeting their obligations. So no, I think I did not. It happens that we have a transportation committee, and therefore it was easy for me to draw what those recommendations were here, reflecting some of the previous work. But with regard to these other agencies, I think it's wide open for this commission and for our communities to suggest you know, where we would like to see these other departments do a better job. In many cases, it's budget. In other cases, it's management to some extent.
And the only reason I bring that up is because I've become the de facto legislative affairs person for our co-ops, but we've also testified for the public record as well to other committees, including, it's not all pernicious either, including the CBED, the Committee on Business and Economic Development, as well as the Library and Youth Affairs or Recreation. Again, it's not all nefarious. We had positive things to say with certain other agencies that we worked with, including the Office of Cable, Film, Television, when they were fixing our cables. It's a pretty obscure agency. But
so I think this list is budget priorities. So our advocacy on
correct,
agencies
and that was about budget though, and I testified.
Right, but I think that when I look at this list, and people can chime in, I'm thinking about like physical improvements for within our ANC, is what I'm looking at this list.
I think cable affects all of us as well as taxes, but that's just me.
Well,
so I would, can I just encourage that this would, when the public comment period happens with the listserv, that you make sure that you submit. And I think our first order of business will be to aggregate all of the feedback that comes in from the community, and then we can bring it back to then start prioritizing, create an ordered list to Commissioner Cologne's comment earlier.
Thank you. Mr. Young.
Hello, my name is Brett Young. First, I want to thank Commissioner Joseph for bringing up the trolley trail, because that's what I wanted to discuss. I'm part of Ward 3 Bicycle Advocates, W3BA. We've been trying to get more quality cycling bike lanes within Ward 3. Personally, I've been working on the trolley trail for 9 years, and with the new MacArthur Boulevard School, I think it's time to bring it up again. Just to reiterate, I put in the chat the most recent up-to-date article about the MacArthur Boulevard High School, and it says once again that DCPS has no plans to, this is what the article says, DCPS says it won't offer transportation to the school, and the district hasn't come up with transportation options for out-of-bounds students. So again, I'm proposing that even that the letter that you have there, it's the trolley trail, although it's on the back burner, it's still on the We Move document blueprint for the city. But I think we should explicitly put that in there, that one of the top priorities, the school's opening up in August, and we should be putting that in there. It's anywhere from I'm counting it from the Palisades Rec Center all the way to Wisconsin Avenue. It's 5 miles of trail. This area, this trolley trail goes directly behind the high school, so they could use the back entrance to get to the school. Along this trail, there are 14 schools, 5 parks, 2 libraries, 2 hospitals, and 2 pools, which means if you ever get this built, Palisades, which doesn't have any pools, the kids of even like 5 years old would be able to use this trail to get to Gillette Pool and the Volta Pool. So that's just many things, not just for the high school, but there's many other uses for this. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comment on the trolley trail. And I personally would like to see the trolley trail, even if it's just from Galena to the school. But I like that. I'm going to go ahead and do my comments. I am probably one of the very few people who have actually read the Canal Road study, because we are greatly affected by the traffic movement on Canal throughout our neighborhood. Arizona Avenue is known to back up almost all the way to Ward Circle. There are huge improvements that they could make on Canal Road that would break every budget, but there are some things that they could do now without doing any road work, just some light signaling, which would, so I'm going to be including the Canal Road in the list that we send out to the group. Does any other commissioner have any other things to add or take away? And I think it might be a good idea for us to start thinking about how we're going to get this out. I love surveys, and I would be willing to make a survey if someone was willing to help me with that.
Commissioner Duncan, I can certainly help with that.
Great. Okay. I think
Certainly,
that
I would be glad to help too, of course. I'm very much interested in that.
yeah, and if we get it out and give the neighborhood a good 7 days to fill it out, look at our list, add to our list, I think we'll have a good read on what's going on from Spring Valley over to Foxhall. Before we move on, are there any other comments on this? And thank you, Commissioner Elkins, for all of the work you did on this.
Can I just chime in for 1 second?
Oh, yes, please, Commissioner Freeman, we would love to hear your thoughts.
Council member.
Oh my God.
All I want to, this was really useful. This is, it'll be really helpful to our office. The way you guys can get into all the granular stuff is, then we can be helpful. So it was really great to hear. And thank you for including me. I wanted to jump one last thing. Amir mentioned the MLK parade. And so now it's not on your list, but on the MLK parade, we're gonna have Crush Funk, a truck and Crush Funk for the MLK parade. And if you've never gone for that parade, it's not the Palisades parade in the heat of July 4th. It's the MLK parade in Anacostia in January. But it is a lot of fun, and it is a great way to represent that folks in Ward 3 care about the whole city. So you'll get a message from our office, or please consider joining us. It'll be a ton of fun. And Crush Funk can't do better than that. That's
Awesome.
Bringing Palisades to Anacostia.
Now that you're here, I have a question about budgets, because for 2 years in a row, the DC budget included improvements for Palisades Park. Our skate park there, which is probably the most used amenity at the park, about a third of it was the concrete has chipped off because someone put some ice melting chemicals on it shortly after it was built, and it is all things. So Che at the time had put $15,000 in the budget, and the PCF was going to put in $10,000 more, and we were going to have the whole thing resurfaced. It went away. We got an entire dog park submitted and approved, and it went nowhere. And we like, what happens to that money? They just later on told me it had been reappropriated, like out of thin air. So now that I'm thinking about non-transportation items, I'm sure I'm going to be adding that on too.
Yeah, I mean, please do add. And I don't know, we'll have to check to see if there's little memos all the time about moving $15,000 from here over to there, and it could have been part of that. I'm in a not as good of a position as Councilmember Che was, because she was the chair of a committee, and so she had the ability to find money in the agencies that she had oversight in and use it in different ways. I don't chair a committee yet, so I don't have that. And she had transportation and the environment, and for some period of time also DGS, so she had pretty good places to look. I'm going to have to rely a little on the kindness of strangers, getting committee chairs to do things in Ward 3, persuading them to use their power over their oversight, and Phil Mendelson when he does the brings it all together. But things like, $20,000 for the Palisades skate park, those are the kinds of things. I hope I can do bigger than that. I don't, but I just want to be not create too high of expectations. But things like that, it may be that they go in the letter to the mayor, but there will be other points along the way where I can make pitches for discrete things and try to deliver to the extent that I can. So keep that in mind.
Great, because I feel like we have fought for that for a number of years, and it keeps getting yanked out from under us. So hopefully people will want to curry your favor, and we'll be doling out money for Ward 3. I won't get my hopes up.
Let's get that during that honeymoon period of yours.
We're gonna try. We're gonna do everything we can. All right, thanks a lot.
And Matt, if we accidentally then call you commissioner again, you should take that as a great compliment. There's a tradition that people should be called by the title of the greatest honor that they've ever held, and some of us have an opinion about that. So if we call you commissioner, it's a compliment.
I would also like to invite Amy in from your office. She has her hand raised, and hopefully she might have some insight onto what happened to our skate park funding.
The skate park, that one I'm not sure about, but I was tracking the Palisades Dog Park because I know that was something that a lot of people were really passionate for. So I was tracking that in Councilmember Che's office, and this is not necessarily positive information, but it is information. And we had the money in the budget. And then after the budget went through, DPR or DGS or a combination of a few of them, they said they suddenly needed a significant amount more money, like by at least like $100,000. And so that's what happened with that project, is that they miscalculated, then they realized they needed a whole bunch more money that they could not pull from anywhere else.
Okay.
So I do have, if for those, or for Chairwoman Duncan, if you are interested, I have some email threads that I might be able to share pieces of that might be a little illuminating. But that is what happened with that. Speaking of which, the money that was allocated for that, then what happened to that? I have no idea, but I know that that's the case of what happened with the dog park.
Thank you. Okay, I think without further ado, we are going to move on from this agenda item onto the next agenda item, making the case for improved bus service in the Palisades. So a little background here. WMATA had this program called Better Bus Service, where they were taking public comments on bus service throughout the city. For those in this meeting, we live in a transportation desert. We have very, very little bus service all over ANC3D, but particularly through Palisades. So much so that most of the people here do not take the bus. There are many people who live here who have never been on the bus. I believe, after talking to many, many people in the neighborhood, that we are particularly primed to get out of our cars when we can, to move around the neighborhood. So because this comment period with WMATA had come to a conclusion, I wanted to sort of rush and put together a letter to sort of get us on the radar, saying, hey, we need some bus service here. But after hearing from some of the commissioners, I have decided that a discussion here about what we want in terms of bus service and what we want to advocate for here in the city, and come up with a strategy and work that strategy to get the better bus service. Because as I was initially talking about bus service just in Palisades, I heard from a number of people in Spring Valley who are interested, and that's where most of my SMD is, who are interested in bus service coming over this way. And when we talk about the new high school, everyone is talking about how we're going to get out of boundary students to the high school. And I'm focused on how we're going to get in boundary kids to the high school. If anyone knows where John Eaton is, it's all the way over in Cleveland Park. Murch is way over there. Oyster Adams, I believe, is in this catchment area too. If you go on the WMATA site, I want to say for a child to take public transportation from John Eaton over to the MacArthur School is close to 2 hours. It's 78 minutes from the center part of Spring Valley. You could walk to the high school faster than you could take public transportation. And this doesn't even take into account the amount of time you wait between the buses. I mean, someone correct me here, but I think the D6 at peak hours runs every 30 or 40 minutes. I think we are heading into a real crisis in September. And I think as an ANC, we are going to have to take the lead with Councilmember Fruman, WMATA, DCPS. I can't even tell you who is thinking about this except for the people who live here. I think we're headed for a crisis. Luckily, we're not going to have that many students at the school when it opens up. But I would like to open up the floor for discussion here on ideas on, do we want to focus on just Palisades bus service? Do we want to be the lead in maybe garnering support from the other ANCs to bring these bus lines sort of cross-ward to access this high school? And I'm going to stop talking and open it up. Commissioner Joseph.
Thank you for raising this. This is extremely important. Just as an anecdote, the long headways between even the D6 bus, coupled with the absolutely unreliable service of the bus, makes it literally impossible for anyone to take that actually has to be someplace at a particular time. And so that renders the bus quite literally useless. Just this morning, my daughter had to she takes the bus, the D6 from our house to Hardy. She had to be there at a particular time, 8:45, to make it to a track meet. The bus starts 3 stops we're 3 stops from the start of the bus at Sibley Hospital. The bus arrived, there's a posted timetable. It's supposed to be there at 7:50 in the morning. The bus left past her at 7:40, so 10 minutes early. And there wasn't another bus for 45 minutes, except for the one that then magically appeared at 8:15. It's impossible for anyone to rely on it. So I had to cancel a work meeting and drive her to school. My thought and recommendation would be simple, like whatever the most simple things we can do to start to improve service along the existing bus lines is a start. Focusing on the high school, focusing on moving the people that are using it today and making it reliable with increased headways, and then building out the network as we go, strikes me as something that's worth shooting for. Thank you.
Commissioner Cologne Roosevelt was next.
Again, like anecdotal evidence, I live on Massachusetts Avenue. I am one of those people in Spring Valley that really is sort of stranded, especially when you try to get down to the Palisades. I think I would have to get to the high school from where I live, and my little sister could go to this high school depending on how fast it expands. I have to take the N6 to Ward, I think, and then I have to take the M4 down and hope it goes all the way to Loughborough, and then I have to get on the D6. And if I somehow hit all of those, it would be a miracle for that not to take 2 hours or so. So this is, our high school has these boundaries up, it goes up north to Massachusetts Avenue, and the kids who live there are going to have to take extreme routes to try to get to this high school by public transportation, unless they want to walk 2 miles or have their parents drive them. So we really need increased bus service. I get it on MacArthur, but we also need something that can take kids from where I live down to MacArthur for this high school too.
Thank you, Commissioner Nowak.
I just want to echo what others have said. I've got my own anecdote. My husband and I were driving down MacArthur on Saturday afternoon, early evening, and we saw not 1, not 2, but 3 D6s back to back. So you're just like, well, clearly, one of them might be running on schedule. The other 2 were not surprisingly empty because there is a bus 15 feet ahead of them. That anybody who needed to catch the bus was on the first one. But I also think that, when the D5 service was canceled several years back, what WMATA said is, well, you didn't have sufficient ridership, so we are going to cut it back. So I do think that, and I know Commissioner Duncan, you had talked about this, and some earlier discussions, that we need to make sure that the surveys in the catchment area and the queries are not to current bus riders, but to residents writ large, to say, would you take the bus if it were accessible, that the stops were in the right place, and that it runs on a schedule. I don't think that the folks living on 16th Street, I know they have their challenges with the buses, but I don't think they're quite the same as what we're facing. So we'll leave it there.
And I'm going to call on members of the public right after, very, very soon, but I want to just ask the commissioners about looking forward to a strategy. Should we be focused here on Palisades? Should we, if we have increased bus service from other parts of the city to get to this high school, it benefits everybody. It's going to benefit the commuters. It's going to benefit employees. You name it. Does anyone have, should we make this broad? Or I think I heard from Commissioner Joseph that we might want to, Commissioner Elkins.
Well, I do think there's an opportunity with WMATA now with regard to better bus service. They've held some hearings or some briefings, and the new general manager is someone who is focused on buses as well as Metro. This is a change, and I think that we've got maybe a month or so where we can catch their planning process before they just close their doors and start developing their strategy. It would have been better if we'd done this in December, of course. And I think it doesn't involve the high school. I think the high school is a much more complicated issue. We need to take that on separately and really work it hard. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we shouldn't work that, but I think a letter to WMATA on the high school thing is a non-starter because they don't believe they're in charge of transportation to high schools. Maybe we need to change their mind. But I think in terms of improving the service on an existing line is something that is within the planning that they're doing right now. In other words, we're not off topic. And I think a very strong set of letters from the Palisades community in particular about the D6 could get us more frequent service. And so I guess I think it's worth going forward with that now, or at least no later than February 1st meeting, and keeping the high school issue hot, but a separate issue. We have a committee within the Transportation Committee that's been working on that, but we need a political strategy that that committee is not capable, or not capable. They don't have all the people at the table who are needed in order to develop a good political strategy, is the best way to put it. So we need to help them in that regard. So I would separate the issues, and so that's my thought.
You've convinced me with your comments there. I'm going to open this up to the public to get some other perspectives. Let us hear from Mr. Zuawi. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Are you able to unmute? There you go.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. Yes, you did. You did pronounce my name correctly. I just want to share my own experience. I moved into the neighborhood in 1994, and I really wanted to use the buses back then. They were not working. So for my commute from here to the World Bank, I ended up having to do what most people did at the time, which is ride my car and pay for parking downtown, which was very expensive. And so my suggestion is, it seems like the problem has not improved over the last 25 plus years. Small suggestion, just, my 2 cents. One of the things that I believed would have made a great deal of difference is, instead of trying to get WMATA to provide us with access to the city and different points, it would have been better if they had just a continuous shuttle running us up to the metro, and from there we would have been able to go wherever we needed to go. So my suggestion is, couldn't they do that? Just provide us with some sort of regular access to the metro, one of the metro access points. My 2 cents.
That's interesting, because part of the neighborhood does have the M4, but it doesn't run as often as it should. That's very helpful comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, Mr. Renee, I'm going to give Derry Allen a chance to talk, and then I'll call on you. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Allen.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to extend the remarks from Commissioner Elkins in 2 ways. He mentioned that we do have I'm now wearing my hat as co-chair of the ANC3D Transportation Committee. And I just want to mention that this is on our agenda. Our Committee on Transportation and New Schools is part of our agenda for our meeting on next Thursday, a week at 4 p.m. And I would encourage anyone who wants to have this conversation in more depth to join us in. And we've had this committee working since last spring, and they have developed a number of options that do involve bus service of different kinds, but they're also looking at other modes of transportation to the new schools, including how do you think about bicycling, pedestrian, what accommodations do you need to accommodate the car traffic that there will be, and so forth. So that's one point. Commissioner Elkins also talked about just the need for a political strategy. And here's where I'd like to get some help from Council Member Fruman, Matt, this is a topic that involves multiple agencies, and some of which you've been very much involved with before, including the schools and so forth. I don't know if you've got any brief comments right now, but as we think about this, you can be very helpful in terms of helping to craft a strategy that says, perhaps as Commissioner Elkins was saying, you know, how do we get people along Palisades together on this? How might that strategy look? What would the elements be? How would we pull it together?
Maybe we can bring Councilmember Freeman back into the spotlight, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great idea. I should try to be a part of this improving bus service throughout the ward. And Palisades, I think Tricia refers to it as a transportation desert, can be one of the focuses. It is a little bit of a honeymoon period where I'm able to get the attention of people. And WMATA is under the Transportation and Environment Committee. So maybe what we should do is put our heads together, and I should seek a meeting with Rand Clark and raise issues directly. If I can get such a meeting, raise issues directly with him about Ward 3 issues that, you know, where we should be trying to improve service. So let's all together take advantage of the honeymoon period. Also, Tracy Haddon-Lowe, who's on the WMATA board, is a Ward 3 resident. So I think the ideas for what needs to be done, I think I want to get them from you. To the extent that I can help in getting access to people, then I would want to be able to do that in addition to a letter kind of thing.
Thank you very much. That is extremely helpful. And then I'm going to call on Renee.
Thank you. I suppose when I win the Powerball jackpot this Friday, I'll never have to take the D6 again, but I'm still holding my breath. I've actually never owned a car in my life. And in my part of the ANC, I believe Office of Planning considers us moderately dense, but just a little bit of anecdote, a lot of us rely on the D6. So with Chair Duncan asking for strategies, I want to point out to the community that the D6 crosses the city via downtown all the way to Hill East. So I would, you know, an option could be partnering with other ANCs where the D6 crosses. I've had to actually contact an ANC commissioner in two whatever it is next, where Georgetown and the ANC splits from 3 to 2. I'm sorry, the ward splits from 3 to 2 about disability access. One of the other things is D6 is another strategy is along the D6 is Georgetown Hospital and Sibley Hospital. Those are critical infrastructures for everyone in the city. Those are hospitals. And also I take the D6 every day. The lack of public input when they changed westbound from, instead of K Street, now it goes westbound via I Street. We were not made aware of it until I actually read it in the listserv. So thank goodness I read it, but I don't recall anything from WMATA. And I don't want to, you know, offer this as, but I think I have to say it. It seems to me that the D6, because it crosses the city, there is a really big risk for WMATA for a Title VI, like civil rights complaint, and people who rely on the D6, not particularly in our ward, since we're considered the wealthier ward, there is a civil rights issue if they can't get to the hospital and WMATA isn't providing services. So a bit of a, I suppose, threat that the ANC.
That's interesting because the D6 runs all the way to the DC Armory. It runs through Capitol Hill. It goes right through downtown near the mall, near the Navy Memorial. It's a very long line.
Yes.
But I'm glad you spoke up, because I think the strategy of maybe reaching to ANCs outside the ward might get us where we need to be. So I do not believe that I had drafted a letter. I do not believe it is anywhere near vote worthy. So I am going to hopefully have something drafted that we can pass at the February 1st. And now that we have this on Councilmember Freeman's radar, I'm not so concerned about us waiting a few weeks to get that done. All right, I am going to, did you want to say something, Commissioner Elkins?
I saw that Troy Kravitz has joined us, and Troy has, for Councilmember Fruman's benefit, had information. Troy has drawn some bus services that would serve this high school, and I at least bring Matt up to speed in just a few sentences, Troy, about what you've drawn and how that might be useful in his conversation with the general manager of WMATA, which he is hoping maybe he could obtain a meeting.
I love putting Troy, Mr.
Wonderful,
Kravitz on
Chuck.
the spot.
Thank you
There you are.
for putting me on the spot here. So I don't know exactly what you're asking, so I'll just try, and then you guys can refine that. What I did is I looked at the catchment basin for MacArthur High School, which is basically the catchment basin for Hardy, which is the catchment basin for Eaton, Hyde, Key, Mann, Stoddard, and Foxhall. And then I looked at existing transportation routes. And what became clear was that there is inadequate but present east-west transportation from parts of the Palisades to MacArthur via the D6. The D6 should be improved, and maybe the D5 should be brought back as well. And the trolley trail would be also helpful. But there was essentially no north-south transportation from, say, Spring Valley or Wesley Heights down to the school. And there was problematic transportation from the far east, the Cleveland Park area. So I looked through and I drew what I thought were two prospective bus lines just to get thinking started. One north-south starting at either Friendship Heights, the Metro Bus Garage, or at Tenleytown, and going down through Spring Valley along 49th Street and then down Foxhall, and then basically down Q into the school. That north-south route, and then captures most of those neighborhoods, is within a quarter mile of Spring Valley. Spring Valley is within a quarter mile of that route. Wesley Heights is essentially within a quarter mile of that route. And then I drew an east-west route starting at the Cleveland Park Metro, going along Macomb and then down into Glover Park a little bit, tried to stay on major roads, then down to Reservoir and to MacArthur School, and drew the quarter mile walk basins there. And those two routes combined with the D6 basically provide something bus-like for most of the students that would be inbounds for this school. Without these routes, from my house, for example, WMATA estimates that it's a 76-minute trip from my house to MacArthur High School. 76 minutes, that's no rush hour. From Chuck's house, Chuck, I believe the fastest route for you is for you to go to Sibley and wait for a bus at Sibley to get to the high school. I would also, my fastest route is also, actually my fastest route is not through Sibley, it's through DuPont Circle. So my fastest route is to go to DuPont Circle and then wait. So I drew just the start of some bus routes to get the conversation started about how do we get these kids to this school. So I don't know if I answered what you wanted me to do. I confess I didn't really know what you wanted me to do.
You did exactly what I wanted you to do. And if you could provide that to Councilmember Fruman, I think you have some drawings. He, maybe before you joined, he said he was willing to try, if he could, to get a meeting with the new general manager of WMATA to talk about these issues. And I think you have just done some of the staff work for him.
Okay, I'll pass them on.
That's terrific. My understanding is that there's also a kind of subcommittee that's working on transportation. And Troy, you may be a part of that. That's working on transportation issues around. And I have been waiting to hear from that subcommittee, and maybe when I do, it'll include that information. I'm going to apologize because I came to do the opening thing and then got curious, and this was really an interesting. the budget transportation thing was really interesting. This was really, really interesting. I'm actually afraid the next thing's going to be too interesting, so I'm going to call it a night.
Yeah, the next one's boring.
Oh, well, then that's a win too. But either way, I think I need to call it a night. But thank you very much for including me.
Thank you so much for sticking
Thank you
around.
for joining us.
All right,
Thank you.
for joining us, Matt.
I'm sure everyone would be clapping.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Kravitz, for that on the spot briefing there. We are going to be moving through the next few very quickly. We have an official action. It's a public space application for 2911 Arizona Avenue, and I'm going to hand it over to Commissioner Joseph.
Thank you very much. So we're joined tonight by Mr. Jamil Zouawi. He's the owner of the house that is the subject of the public space application, which is in my SMD. I emailed the commissioners earlier this week on the topic. I seek your vote in approval of a public space application for that address. Mr. Zouawi is seeking to replace the stairs that have since fallen down and have gone into disrepair with a driveway. Every other house on the street has a driveway. I've spoken to the neighbors on both sides of Mr. Zouawi's house. They're strongly in support of this application. And the reason why it's coming up now is because the DDOT has asked us for review by the 23rd of January in advance of the DDOT's Public Space Commission meeting in February. And so I'm happy to entertain any questions, or I offer you the opportunity to vote on this.
Why don't you make a motion and we'll have a discussion.
I make a motion for the committee to approve public space application 399847.
I'll second that.
Second.
And now we're going to open up for discussion. Does anyone have any questions for Commissioner Joseph? Okay, would Mr. Zouawi, do you feel compelled to, I'm not certain you even need to speak here. I think the motion on the floor is to approve application at 2911 Arizona Avenue. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Quentin, did you vote?
Yeah, aye.
Oh, aye. Okay, that passed unanimously. So, well done. Congratulations.
Terrific, thank you. And so my understanding is that the commission's official action is to go into TOPS, and Commissioner Elkins, perhaps you can help me with this, to go into TOPS and select approve the fact that we approved that. Is that in fact what we need to accomplish?
We normally send a piece of paper. I guess we're old fashioned, and we can do that. That is something that our new administrator, Bradley Darren, can do for us, and we'll do tomorrow.
Okay, terrific. Is there also the opportunity to go into TOPS and select approve? And I read from the email that was part of the request.
Do that as well.
Okay, terrific. So commissioners, thank you very much. I'll just say separately, I'm working with Mr. Zouawi. I'm also working with Christian Pinheiro from DDOT to resolve some outstanding design questions around the application, and we're going to help move this forward expeditiously.
Excellent, thank you. I think we all would be interested in the approval process too. So I'd love to be looped in on the actual things we need to do after this. So moving on to Commissioner business. The next item on the agenda is the approval of Commissioner Elkins' oral testimony of January 9th at the Zoning Commission regarding the American University sound barrier. Commissioner Elkins, would you mind saying a few words on what we're actually voting on today?
Yes, essentially in December, the ANC voted to ask the Zoning Commission to approve this sound wall application. I then went and testified in front of the Zoning Commission to give oral support to that. the zoning commission has a rule. They will give great weight to any written comment, which of course we did send them on December 7th, so that is fine. But they have a rule that they will not give great weight to oral presentations. I guess they don't trust us commissioners too much, unless they get blessed within 7 days. Of course, I've told them 7 days is ridiculous, but not in this hearing, but I've told them otherwise. And they have, as one time I was able to get it in 9 or 10 days, and the chairman said, "Wow, we certainly approve of ANC's giving our comments, so we'll let them submit this at 10 days late." So this time we are within time because I just testified on Monday. So we're within the 7 days. So I'm asking, and I did send my comments around. They're fairly consistent with the letter that went out in December. So I'm asking that you give official endorsement of my comments so that they can be given great weight. And I think we should try to do this on any big cases we have in front of the zoning commission, because we have a special role there, and I think we should try to play it as well as we can.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to approve Commissioner Elkins' oral testimony to the zoning commission regarding the sound wall. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes unanimously. Thank you. The next commission business we have is to discuss in-person versus hybrid meetings for 2023. We have done, the commission, ANC3D has done hybrid for a long period of time now. Commissioner Elkins, could you remind us all of how long it's been extended that we are allowed to have?
I think we can meet until August virtually, but after that, the council either has to extend it, or in September, we would be forced to go back to either hybrid or in-person meetings, our choice.
So one of the things we can decide is we are allowed to go hybrid before that August date, where they're going to, at least as of now, ask us to come back in person.
Right.
So this is a discussion on how we feel about hybrid. I'm going to say my personal comments is I like the idea of hybrid, so that we as commissioners get a nice in-person working relationship with each other. Zoom has been absolutely terrific for engagement, and we will 100% still have the community linked in through Zoom. But I'd like to open it up for discussions on what people think in terms of hybrid or just online. Commissioner Horn.
I'd like to do hybrid. I'd really like to be able to meet with people face to face to the extent possible.
Anyone else have an agreement, or Commissioner Elkins?
Well, I think it is. I think we should move ahead. I have two caveats. One is, although we have tested out some equipment, we haven't given it the full test. So I would like for us to have a chance to actually test the equipment in a real live situation. Well, a real test situation that would reflect real world conditions, to make sure that we can do a hybrid meeting well, so that both we and the people in the audience and the presenters can be heard well and seen well. I think that's possible. We just haven't done it. So I would ask that we maybe try to, if we want to go forward, and we want to go forward quickly, I would say, could we have the month of February to test this out and then start in March? And the other caveat I would ask is forbearance on the part of my colleagues here, that I am sort of sensitive about COVID. I am 82 years old, and my generation is particularly sensitive to all these things that are going around. I've been sick with a cold for the last 2 weeks, and it has really kept me from doing commission work, and I don't want that. So anyway, if you held an in-person meeting, a hybrid meeting, and I participated by hybrid, by virtual, I would hope you would not find that inappropriate. And I would just use my judgment, if you don't mind, about my own personal health and not take it as a comment about the fact that I don't like any of you. I just at this age, I'd like to stay alive a little bit longer.
Never, we would never think that. Commissioner Joseph.
I think that makes a lot of sense, both the hybrid meeting option, but also what Commissioner Elkins was saying, which is giving commissioners discretion. Largely, I think we'd want to be in person if we can for all the benefit that brings. But we all have jobs and that involves travel, and so the opportunity to participate, even if we were called away for work travel, would be also valuable. So I endorse the hybrid approach.
I think it's one of those things that if we start it, we'll start getting used to it and we'll get better at it every meeting that we do. So I am going to move on to the next item because it's a discussion of meeting locations. Commissioner Elkins, feel free to chime in, but Commissioner Elkins and myself and Commissioner Simkowitz went and visited 3 sites, all sort of in the middle of the ANC. One was the Lab School Auditorium. One was the Great Room, St. Patrick's, also up Whitehaven. And the last one was GW Mount Vernon campus. We saw 3 rooms that are all available to rent. This would be something that the ANC would have in their budget for room rental. We decided that the GW campus place, they all had pros and cons, but we thought the meeting space itself lent itself to hybrid meetings the best, mostly for acoustics and the layout of the area where the commissioners' desks would be, where members of the public could sit and spread out. The ease of parking there. There is a parking garage. And Commissioner Elkins, did you have anything else to add in terms of the meeting space that we had there?
Just a couple of points. One is we asked George Washington whether they would extend the free parking until 11 o'clock at night. Actually, we asked for midnight. But they said they were willing to extend free parking until 11 o'clock. Now, this commission has been known to go past 11 o'clock. I hope with 7 commissioners we don't. But let's say that we're having a really, really important discussion and we don't want to stop having that discussion because people are depending on us to make a decision, and it's 10:45. I would suggest at that point that we break for 15 minutes and we go get our cars out of the garage. We park on the street. There is parking on the street at that hour. And we come back and continue the meeting. And so it's inconvenient, but I think it's nice that they had set it for 10 o'clock and they moved it to 11 o'clock. And so that is the one consideration. But otherwise, there is parking right there in the garage. You take the elevator up and walk up a few stairs to the meeting.
And there's also a ramp for accessibility that comes to the same entrance. And then the meeting room is on the same floor as you walk in. So you don't have to move floors once you're in the building. And it's nice. But the reason I liked it the best was for acoustics, keeping in mind that we might have hybrid meetings. That was actually the biggest downfall of meeting at St. Patrick's, is that the sound reverberates there.
Yeah, the acoustics are much, much better in this circumstance. Now, what I will say this, though, if I could just add, Madam Chairman, and that is that if we were to decide to enter into a contract with George Washington, and we will need a contract, I believe, because they are asking for that we authorize the chair to enter into that contract they have quoted us a price, so we would have that in mind, but the exact details could be worked out in a contract that we would authorize from the to maybe authorize the chair to enter into.
Can I ask a question? Do you think this is something that we should vote on tonight, or do you think that we should spend the next few weeks testing out our proposed technology to see if it works?
Well,
can I ask a question before you answer that, Commissioner Elkins? And that is, if we are going to put room rental into the budget anyway, doesn't that de facto give the chair the authority to enter into a contract to, that's already contemplated in the budget?
Pretty much so. You will learn, however, that since you're going to be treasurer, that the auditing process downtown is very particular, and so you'll find that I will at various times suggest we not only do things once, but we do it twice, because once you submit it, it's so much easier to submit it one time than to have to submit it 3 times, and we've had a lot of bad experience about that. So you're absolutely right, but I think a specific authorization from us to the chair to negotiate this contract and then bring that contract back to the commission for our approval would be ironclad.
Okay, do you think that we should vote on that tonight?
Well, I would only say this, that I think based on the testing you've already done, and there are only a couple of things that I would like to attest that we have not tested, that it does look like that the piece of equipment, which is in the budget, we need to talk about that, which costs $1,000, will in fact work very well for us in this situation. But if in fact in the February testing, we find that, or end of January, early February testing, that it, lo and behold, there's a big technical problem, then I think we would say, well, let's not go on and sign this contract quite yet. Because my major concern is that we have purchased the right technology so that each of us can be heard clearly, be seen if possible, but heard is very important, and that that people who are presenting can also be heard well. And I think we've all probably, maybe some of us not, but most of us have seen a hybrid meeting that has not worked. And I think maybe we got the technology identified, thanks to the chair, that will work. But I'd like a little escape valve here.
Okay. I want to address a comment by Mr. Nick Keenan in the chat, because he is asking, every one of these institutions has business before the commission. This was forefront on our mind. There are many institutions in the ANC district that would offer us space for free. And we have asked to be treated just like any other person or group going to rent space, to take away that conflict of interest, because we like to meet within ANC3D. So there's literally almost no space except for the public spaces, and they don't stay open late enough. So it was on the forefront of our mind. And we think by entering into a market rate contract with one of these institutions would give us a buffer from them having any influence over any of our decisions.
The George Washington University has offered us what they call their sponsored rate. And that is that if you are sponsored by some organization in the university, they will give you this rate. It's $425 an evening. We were paying $150 at Wesley, which was their market rate. So I think we would be paying market rate, and I absolutely agree with Mr. Keenan that it's important to avoid any appearance of conflict here, because there will possibly come forward sometime when we have some controversy or matter of discussion with George Washington, and we need to feel free to do what makes sense for the best interest of the District of Columbia with regard to George Washington, and not be influenced by the fact that they're giving us some special deal at the university.
Okay, Does any, I know you all didn't see the spaces, so you're taking our word for it, but I do believe the GW space was for a hybrid meeting. I thought it was the best.
I can pass some photographs around. I think maybe, Madam Chairman, if you give me a little, maybe we postpone this decision till we get through a couple of other items. Maybe I can put some photographs up on the web, up on the screen. If people, does anybody feel uncertain about this site? Okay, if everybody is willing to, well, Commissioner Roosevelt.
Yeah, I think we haven't tested out the hybrid equipment yet, and
well, that's fine. We need to talk about that.
Yeah, we really should test it out first before we enter into a contract with the spot, probably. And we want to make sure that we can actually run the hybrid meetings and that, you know, it'll sound fine. And if Mr. Elkins wants to call in whenever he wants, we can do that. I'd be down to do that.
Can we make the resolution such that we approve the space pending successful testing, you know, completion of the requisite tests?
I like that.
Judged by them.
Can you go ahead and make that? Can you go ahead and make that motion?
Yes. Be it so moved.
Second.
That sounds awesome.
All those in favor?
Is there a letter?
Discussion. Go ahead.
Is there a letter? I might have missed it.
So there's no letter. This is
okay.
a resolution to pursue checking out the space with the technology, see if it works, and pursuing a contract.
That sounds great to me.
As indicated by, as you know, contemplated in the budget. So we have the money in the budget. So this will be consistent with that.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. The next item is the budget. We'll also be voting on this. And if someone could pull that up.
Bradley, if you could bring up our budget, I'd appreciate it. Now, we do have a budget approved by the commission in October or November. But I have gone in here and edited it, thinking that we would probably like one that reflects our current knowledge. And also, the other reason I wanted to bring it forward is because I know that all of you now are going to be responsible for this budget. It's one of the fiduciary responsibilities of commissioners to make sure we stay within reason, within the money that the DC has given us, and that therefore you want to have some role in that. So rather than just saying, well, we have a budget, that's it, I wanted to present it to you. So the other thing I want to make sure you understand that this is not a budget that cannot be exceeded. This is the budget that allows us to ask the treasurer to pay, let's say we have a contract with George Washington and it's for $425 a month. Instead of coming every month to the commission and the treasurer saying, please allow me write a check for $425. No, if the $425 is in this budget, she can simply write the check and of course have it signed by the chair. We have, these checks have to be signed by two people. So this is a permissive kind of budget. And that makes sense, particularly in this case, because we have approximately $57,000 in reserve at this present time. And I think, and here I'm going to have to ask the treasurer at our February or March meeting to really make sure that we know what we have in more detail, because I have not been the treasurer, but I think we have at least another $14,000 due to us from the district from last fiscal year. So we are not living hand to mouth here, and so we can exceed this budget if necessary. But with that said, in 2023, we will be getting from the district $20,533. You see that at the top. And we need to keep in mind that that's more than we're going to get next year. So we need to make sure we're we know that we don't have as much money next year as we do now, and we're going to be getting $17,000 for the year. So the direct office costs would be included $425 a month for 7 months. Of course, next year, if we kept doing this, it would have to be for 12 months. So it'd be a bigger item. And we have the post office box and the drop box. So that comes to about $3,500. The hybrid equipment, what Commissioner Duncan has identified and has tested is something called the OWL, and it costs $1,000. And if Commissioner Duncan wants to describe how that works, that'd be fine. It costs $1,000. It'd be a one-time cost, and that's the piece of equipment that needs to be tested. It makes it possible for us not to need individual microphones for each of us and wearing headsets, because if you have a microphone and you're sitting there on Zoom next to somebody else and you're both speaking into your microphone, you're going to have interference. This eliminates that. You do not have to bring your laptop with you. That's what the people downtown are assuming we will have to do for hybrid meetings. Each of us has to bring a laptop. This eliminates that. It's got a camera and a microphone. Both of them focus on who's speaking and projects it across the internet and onto the screen behind us, so people in the auditorium can see it. So that is the equipment. It costs $1,000. And then there are a little bit more money in there for other things. And then the main cost is for our administrator. We hired Bradley Darren in December. He's working as a contractor for $25 an hour. The contract basically says do not work more than 35 hours a month without permission from the chair. And that would work out to around $10,500 for the year. And then we have a contractor who does transcripts for us up in Staten Island, and we in the past have found transcripts very useful, and I see them even more useful in the future because the contractor has now agreed to upgrade the transcript that he gives us so that it will be very easy for either Bradley or the secretary to write the minutes in less than an hour, I would say, based on that transcript. If you have to use a video to write it, that's harder. And then allowed for a few other contracts in case we needed them. So it all ends up equaling $17,000, and which is approximately what we would be actually getting next year, and it's below what we are being allocated this year. And you notice there's nothing in grants. We have given grants before. You notice actually last year we were quite generous. We gave $6,000 grants or so plus to both Key School and to Horace Mann School PTAs for things that they needed that they could not get from the school system. We could give grants. We can give grants, and what we've done in the past is we have sometimes included an amount in the budget. In this case, it would go over our allocation, but we do have $57,000 in reserve. You put it in, and your reason for putting it into the budget, so people know who are, run NGOs in our area, that they could apply for a grant. The other approach is we simply put on the listservs and reach out to people that we think might be interested in a grant and do good things for the community and invite them to submit grant applications. So I think ideally we ought to at least make that known in the listserv so everybody has an equal chance. So that's a choice for this group at this point. And the last thing I would say is we can amend this budget at any time during the fiscal year. I just thought it was important to amend it now so that this commission would have an awareness of what our budget is, what we're spending the money on, and would feel some ownership for it.
Can I ask a question about the grants?
Yes.
And the line item there, is it harder to give away a grant if it's not in the budget, or when you give a grant, we would all vote on it and that would sort of amend the budget?
Anything that's not in this budget specifically has to be voted on at a meeting, at a public meeting. So let's say that out of the blue, without our soliciting, XYZ sends in a grant application. We would then review it at the next meeting. If, let's say we say, yes, it's a good idea, you'll find me suggesting that before we approve it, we send it downtown to have them review it ahead of time. And I can tell you why later. But anyway, it's just from having them say you made a mistake, and we'd hereby deduct twice the amount of money from your budget, which they have threatened to do in the past. So we send it downtown for them to review it. But then we approve it. That's perfectly fine. It didn't have to be in our budget. If it's not in our budget, we have to take a vote in a public meeting.
Okay.
But I think I also heard Commissioner Elkins say that at any time we could vote to amend the budget.
That's correct.
So we could, in theory, if a grant applicant came to us this afternoon, for example, even though we're not voting on the approval of said grant, we could vote tonight to add $5,000 to the grant line item. And then next month, we would decide if we're actually going to spend that money with said applicant, or it would just sit in the grant, line item fund to be either used or reallocated at a later date.
We do not actually have to amend the budget. We can simply give the grant after due consideration, of course. And the auditor downtown will accept that as appropriate. Of course, we have to have the money in the bank, but the budget is a way of think of it this, it's pre-approving expenditures that the treasurer can disperse without our further consultation with us. And we can spend above this budget if we want to, but we have to do it as a full commission in a public meeting.
Okay.
It's a funny budget in that regard. It's not the normal kind of budget.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I completely understand. So if we allocate, say, $5,000, like Commissioner Nowak said, in the budget for grants, then can the treasurer, not that Commissioner Nowak would do this, can the treasurer give them out unilaterally without
no
voting on it?
That's a good question.
No, okay.
That's a good question.
No, the treasurer would make a mistake doing that. The grant application would come in, and the other rules are that any grant applications we have to consider, we have to put, we have to make them public. We then take a public meeting, and yes, so the treasurer would not dispense the money for a grant without the full vote of this commission. And I'll just say a couple more words about grants, but there's a lot more one could learn. And that is, it has to be for an organization which serves primarily the people who live in ANC3D. And so some charity that works citywide, nope, we probably can't give that grant. That we could give it, for instance, as we did to the PTA of Horace Mann School, because that serves primarily the people, the children and the families that live in ANC3D, although not exclusively.
Commissioner Horn?
So if we were to spend on something else, it's coming out of our reserve?
It comes out of the reserve, yes. Right.
And there's no other sources of income other than the 17,000 that we'll get next year?
No, that it's basically what we have in reserve, and you can thank Troy Kravitz, who served as treasurer, who really forced us to be really tight with our money. And that's why we have that reserve. When he took over as treasurer, we had almost nothing in the bank. But it's there for us to serve the community. It's not serving the community, sitting in the bank. So giving it away to a worthy cause within the community is a perfectly appropriate thing to do, and the council has authorized us to do that. But we only have the money we get on a quarterly basis from the city, provided our documents are in order. They will give us a quarterly allocation. They're usually about 6 months to 9 months behind, and then we have the money we have in the bank, the reserve.
And how did we get that reserve? I mean,
We just
because
money. We had an administrator who was making about $19,000 a year against an allocation of maybe $22,000 a year from the city. And that's because that person was not working on an hourly basis. They were working on a salary, essentially what was equivalent to a salary. They were a contractor, but it was basically, they got the same amount every month. And we converted to an hourly contract. We pay an hourly rate to our contractors, and we then do some of the work within the commission, with individual commissioners do some of the work, and we've tried to save the money. We're not part of it. We want to use it for contractors if we had some kind of development going on up in our neighborhood and we needed some professional help. But we've also used it for grants. Some agencies give grants and some don't, but it is authorized in the statute.
Great questions, everyone. We do have to vote on this. Would you like to make a?
I'd like to move that we adopt the budget as written at this time.
I'll second that.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously. Excellent. Next item on the budget is the meeting calendar. And I would like to put this up briefly, or maybe cut and paste it and put it in the chat, because I would like the constituents who are on to know these dates too. But once again, Chuck, you helped put together this calendar. Did you want to say just a few brief words?
It is the first Wednesday of every month, except of course this month, and April, where the first Wednesday is the first day of Passover, and out of respect for that, I'm suggesting we meet the day before on the first Tuesday, April 4th. The August 2nd date, we try not to meet in August. This last year we had to, because there was a marijuana dispensary that we felt the neighborhood would want us to vote on. And if we didn't vote in August, we didn't get to be heard. So we did meet in August, but it's the first time in my 6 years we've ever met in August. And then we get down to January. And I'm suggesting that January 3rd is a little early to meet. Because the agenda has to be put together during the preceding week, et cetera. It sort of interferes with holidays. And so suggesting that we meet on the 10th of January. And you say, well, why are you voting on January 10th? Well, because the statute requires us to vote on both the meetings for this year and the first meeting of next year. So that is the proposed agenda of this calendar. We can change it by vote. But it helps for people to plan ahead to know when we are meeting.
And if I remember from our training, we're only required to meet 9 times out of the year, but
that's correct.
3D has historically been a strong 11-monther.
We usually have enough business to keep us busy, but we could vote not to meet. I mean, some commissions don't meet in December, for instance, for obvious reasons.
Any other questions? All right, I'm calling the vote. Motion on the floor is to approve this calendar for all of our dates to meet plus January of next year.
Can I make an amendment before we vote?
Yes.
Can we take, to Commissioner Elkin's point, can we take December off the calendar for now? And if we as a commission feel that there's enough business go around, we can put it back on for December?
If needed, put the brackets if needed.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Sure.
Is this a friendly amendment? Can we go ahead and do, are there any objections? Friendly amendment, if needed.
And that just puts the pressure on us to really get our business finished by November 1. And if we, in some cases, we may say, well, we have a choice to either November or December, and we just we work hard to move it into November. So knowing ahead of time is good. I appreciate that amendment. I think that's a good one.
All right, motion on the floor is to approve this calendar as amended. Second?
A second, yeah, and then I.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Approved unanimously. All right, moving on. We're doing a lot of housekeeping here. We have the appointment of the representatives for American University and Georgetown University neighborhood partnerships. These partnerships are well organized, and correct me if I'm wrong, these are recognized by the city, aren't they, the partnerships?
That's correct.
Mr. Elkins? Yes. So our ANC has representatives who are on the commission who are going to serve on this. So the two SMDs that border American University, our first vote is going to be on American University, are 01 and 02. That's Commissioner Elkins and myself. I'm just going to make a motion that Commissioner Elkins and myself are going to serve as the neighborhood partnership representatives for American University. Is there a second? Any questions, discussion? All those in favor? Aye, unanimous. Thank you. That vote's done. We're moving on to Georgetown University representative for the neighborhood partnership. In the past, this was JP Simkowitz. There are some circumstances here that Commissioner Simkowitz has had to step aside. And luckily, the closest SMD commissioner is Commissioner Nowak, who is in 06. She's familiar with what is going on there, and she has agreed to be our representative for that partnership. So I move to elect Commissioner Nowak to the Georgetown University Neighborhood Partnership. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Thank you, Commissioner Nowak. All those in favor? Unanimous?
Madam Chairman, if I could just say a word.
Yes.
These representatives of ANC3D need to feel the responsibility to keep fellow commissioners informed about what's going on, and to make sure that by the time anything comes forward to the commission, that the other commission members will not be surprised by that. And to also watch out for things that may be of concern, neighborhood impacts like student behavior, or the fact that they're going to have more students on campus than they're allowed under the campus plan, and therefore it's a violation or whatever. Those are the kind of things in the past that we've been concerned about. So I just want to emphasize that there is a duty on the part of the representatives, and I would ask the other commissioners to hold us to it, because that's the way we can operate best, I think.
Sorry about that. I was muted. Moving forward, we are whipping through these items. We are going to have two items under committees. The first vote should be fairly simple. This is a continuation of the Transportation Committee. I think everyone here is familiar with the Transportation Committee, but Commissioner Elkins, did you want to say 2 sentences about this important committee?
Yes, it would take a 2/3 vote to terminate the meeting, but the committee. I hope nobody wants to do that. I think it's been very valuable. More importantly, I would ask that if you have any interest whatsoever in transportation, that you do attend the meetings. You are automatically able to attend all these meetings. You don't have to ask permission. That's the way the committees work. and you can join or not. The difference between joining and attending is if you join, you're expected to do some of the staff work. And you may want to just attend first to see whether you want to do any of the staff work. But to be frank about it, if you're interested in transportation, you're going to find that most of the staff work's done by the, at least traditionally, has been done by the Transportation Committee. So when it comes forward to the ANC, there's never been any case where the ANC hasn't endorsed the recommendations of the committee, with the one exception where we had two options we presented on Arizona Avenue. So of course the commission had to choose one of those two options. So if you want to play in transportation, I would hope you would work on the Transportation Committee, and you'll find, my last statement, I know this is more two-sentence, you will find that we have some very interesting and effective neighbors who are not commissioners, who have served on this committee and who do good work and who have a lot of good ideas. And it really makes you feel good about the neighborhood, and they do a lot of good work for us.
I second that, those statements there. I'm going to go ahead and call this vote for the continuation of the Transportation Committee for ANC3D. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Joseph. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. The second vote is on a new special committee. According to the bylaws, we can have we can do special committees that they have an ending. And this is on the creation of a coordinating committee for DC Plug. This is something that I am very interested in. I sent around the resolution. It was posted to the website, but if I could just run down the highlights. DC Plug is a DC and Pepco partnership to underground all of the power lines eventually in the city. They are coming up and they are in the design phase for feeder 14767. And it encompasses many of the SMDs that are in ANC3D. And there's a desire by the neighborhood to not only underground the power lines, but they're going to be tearing up every single road here in mostly Palisades, but it stretches into Foxhall and Wesley Heights a bit, to underground the telecommunication cables at the same time, or at a minimum, lay some conduit that the lines can be pulled through. There are a couple of the things we'll be looking at. Is there an option for homeowners to contract with the crews there to underground the wires coming to their house? We believe that this will have a number of benefits to get rid of our power poles, to keep our robust tree canopy, protecting even the telecommunications cables from, weather-related disruptions. And honestly, the telecommunications contractors leave dozens and dozens of yards of just rat's nest cable all over our neighborhoods. And we're hoping that we can use this as an opportunity to clean this up. I'm going to be chair of that committee. I'm opening this up to members of the community. I'm going to put my email in the chat if you're interested in serving on this committee or learning a little bit more about it. We are looking for members, and I suspect that this is going to be a 2 or 3 year thing. We are going to be reporting to the ANC every month at our regular meetings to give you updates. So I'm going to go ahead and call a motion, and there'll be time for questions and discussion. But the motion on the floor is to create this special DC Plug coordinating committee and pass this resolution. Is there a second? All right, second.
Emphatically second.
Does anyone have any questions or comments about this? I see Renee is a member of the public. Would you like to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, so what I was mentioning earlier with our cooperative provided public testimony to a fairly obscure agency with a Office of Cable, Television, Film, Media, it's a slew of offices, but specific to DC Plug, I'm really encouraged that the chair is, chairing this. And just a suggestion to also connect with the Office of Cable Television, because we got connected with a cable inspector who handled some of the things that you mentioned, Chair, with rats nesting, and it's really dizzying when you have to contact Comcast or another, or RCN or another, and it's difficult to find a live person. DC government OCFTME, whatever their acronym is, was very instrumental in that. So I'm encouraged with all this stuff that you mentioned with this new, I suppose, standing committee. Thank you.
I appreciate this. I just put my email in the chat. If I could be so bold for you maybe to write down some of those agencies, and if you're interested, we can have this conversation.
Great. I'm willing to share our testimony as well too. Thank you.
That would be great. Thank you. Are there any other questions from commissioners? All right, all those in favor? All right, unanimous. Yes, I'm excited to get to work. All right, the next thing is also required housekeeping. I think we all here know what the ANC security fund is for officers, but the city requires us to pay into an insurance bond for our officers in case something goes wrong with our money. It's $50. This vote is very important. Motion on the floor is to approve the $50 for the ANC security fund for officers. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And
a technicality, they would like us to vote on the resolution that's on the website, which basically says the same thing, but could we amend the resolution to say we will approve the resolution that's on the website?
I consider that a friendly amendment. So with no objections, this is the actual template that they gave us for our specific commission. So we are going to be all those in favor of passing this resolution as amended. Say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, also unanimous.
Madam Chairman, I have a related matter I need to bring up with this group, and that is that this is only the front page of about an 8-page document that has to be filed with the auditor and has to be approved by the auditor after we visit the bank and get our signatures, the officer's signatures on the bank, on the signature card. And last year it was June before we could get approval. This year I'm hoping for March. I've been through this 6 times and it's always a big headache, but the approach, which I will be in touch with each of the officers separately so I don't take up a lot of time tonight, is for all of us to meet down at the bank on Massachusetts Avenue, the PNC Bank, at the same time. And I know this is difficult because some of you work during the day, but if we can find a time when all of us can be there, this will expedite the approach. And so I will try to schedule a time when all of the officers are available. I will then try to get an appointment with the bank manager. I've done this several times. We all meet there and we all sign the right piece of paper and we all say we are officers and all that, and it will save us several weeks. And then we'll have to send it all in and hope we didn't make a mistake, and they will then approve it. And then we can write checks. Until that time, we cannot write a check, except for the $50 one.
Thank you for that clarification. These things seem innocuous, but they are very important.
This has been the biggest pain in the tail ever. But anyway.
Hopefully we can get that. You can get OANC to like streamline this downtown.
It's not OANC, it's the auditor.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So she is not subject to any lobbying. Nor should.
Go ahead. So the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. We only have one commissioner here who was a commissioner at the last ANC. But the motion on the floor is we approve the minutes.
Robert's Rules of Order, I think, make it clear that even though you weren't at the meeting, you can approve the minutes. So I would move that we approve the minutes from December.
I second that. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. That vote passes. Treasurer's report.
We don't have one, but if we could move to the next one, I can give sort of an abbreviated treasurer's report, and then we can have a real treasurer's report in February or March as soon as Commissioner Norwork is ready to report. But if I can give you a general.
Please give us some explanation on this quarterly financial report.
Riley, if you bring up the overall sheet, the summary sheet for the quarterly report. Now, this is a report that every quarter we must submit, and if we don't submit it on time and accurately, we don't get our money. And so that's why we're counting on our treasurer to do this well. And there's some training for the treasurer, and I've been told that the system has been improved. So actually, if you would move it up slightly, Bradley. No, the other way. I'm sorry. Move it down, right? Okay. So what this is what we did last quarter, and this is what we're reporting downtown. In this case, this report goes to OANC. And you'll see that we paid $100, I think it was, for the post box, and we paid $12,700 for Riley, our former administrator. You think that's a lot of money. That's because he didn't submit bill invoices until near the end. The $750 included money that we paid for American University to store our paper records. And I'm happy to report that I was able to get I wrote a letter to the Office of the Attorney General and asked, do we still have to keep paper records? And he wrote an opinion applicable to all ANCs that says we don't have to keep paper records anymore. I went over there in December, got those paper records, and have given the ones that are relevant to be saved to Bradley, or will be giving them. He hasn't picked them up yet. And we will be digitizing those. So we no longer have to pay American University to store our records, and American University is happy about that, I'm sure. So you'll notice that if we need, with regard to the treasurer's report, you can see we have the checking account of $10,000 and the savings of $45,000. So essentially $56,000 total resources. What is for a vote tonight, we don't vote on the treasurer's report, not required to, but we are required to vote on this quarterly report, and it then must be submitted within 15 days or else we get penalized. So I would I will make a motion and entertain any questions about it. I move that we approve the quarterly financial report for quarter one, which started in October and ended on December 31.
I'll second that. I just have one question, because I'm looking at this as the 10,000 plus the 45,000. But when I looked at the budget, didn't it say we had something like $90,000 in reserves?
No, it did not. It said we had 57,000.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, good question, but no, I think it's 57.
The budget font was smaller, so
No, they are consistent.
Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous.
Now, one last thing. This has to be signed by 3 people, 3 officers, this is a job for Bradley. Which I don't think he knew he has, but he hereby is assigned this job. If we can find ways to work with electronic signatures in which we can trust Bradley to not sign your name when you have not authorized him to. That would be a lot easier than Bradley running around to your house and trying to get you to sign a document. So I know.
I think we need to look at, it's very inexpensive to get a subscription to DocuSign or, similar signing software that we should just, if we need to approve it in next month's budget, then so be it. But I think we have to do that as we move to digitizing all of our transactions. I think we just have to get out of paper altogether.
I have the ability to do that. Sorry, I have the ability to do that via Adobe, so I think we should be all set up to do it digitally.
Perfect. Perfect.
Good. Okay, that's excellent. So, Madam Chairman, I think we have taken care of the quarterly report.
So that brings me up to adjournment. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Does anyone have anything else they need to say? All right.
Congratulations on your first successful meeting, Chairwoman.
Thank you.
Only
It went a
15
little
minutes
later than
over,
I had hoped. Thank you for everyone who has stayed on, and I hope to see you all again.